Hey everybody, how's it going? Let me just hit this one key here. We'll get going. There we go. Hey, welcome to our Tuesday night live show. This is Carl for Carl's Opinion. Welcome everybody who's in the chat. I see Rocky, Matt, Black and Irish, Crazy Chick Sheena. How you guys doing? And a lot of news to cover. I know we all watched the Trump rally tonight. It was great, by the way. He filled that stadium up. It was 20,000 plus people inside. Who knows how many people outside. And for, yeah, really, more reason. Yeah, we're going to get some really interesting details on this one tonight, Rocky, for sure. Yeah, Mac, glad you made it in time. Good deal. But yeah, the Trump rally was fantastic. And hey, Darla, how you doing? Hey, Paris, Texas, excellent. But yeah, the Trump rally was awesome tonight. It was, you can't get, none of the Democrats. Joe Biden. I saw Joe Biden's kickoff campaign rally in Philadelphia. I mean, literally, he did it inside of a small park, and it wasn't like Central Park. It wasn't like a rock concert with like a couple 100,000 people out there. I mean, he just had a very cordoned off area. It maybe fit 400 people in max, and the cameras kept showing like the crowd. It was like maxed out at like 400 people, and it was just no organization whatsoever. There's somebody blowing a whistle in the background the whole time. Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, and whoever was working the audio didn't know what they were doing. Hey, I know something about audio, and they left the mic. They left the gains too high, so it picked up a lot of background noise. I think they were trying to hopefully pick up the background noise for the people applauding and stuff. But they also grab a lot of other nonsense as well. But yeah, he had like 400 people. That was his big kickoff campaign in Philadelphia, which you should have had a huge crowd. And just to say, there wasn't a lot of diversity on site that day. Not really at all, not even close. But versus Trump's campaign, this thing was Trump's kickoff. This was awesome. I mean, and anybody who's never been to a Trump rally, when you hear the president say there's a lot of people outside, trust me, that's true. I've been to 2 Trump rallies. And the last one I went to back in right before the midterms, 2018, we got inside. I mean, we just barely got inside, and it filled the place we were in, filled it up. I did a hand count on it myself, and trust me, the media undercounted by literally half on what was inside. It was a convention hall. And then I went outside, and there were literally, I did a hand count when I got outside. We left early. I wanted to beat traffic. I had to go to work the next day. And went outside, did a count on there. There was literally about 3,000 people standing outside watching the big video screen TVs. They said they set up the big TVs and people stay outside and watch because they can't get in time. That's true. They can't get in time. There's not enough room inside. And there are literally about 3,000 people outside. And, of course, the mainstream media never reported any of that. And, he has to, that's why people will say, why is he always bragging? Why is he always bragging? Well, he has to because nobody else will for him. I mean, he has to say, look how big the crowd is. Because, Fox was showing the crowd size. They were painting the stadium, the arena, rather. But I was watching some MSNBC, and trust me, they didn't show any of the arena. They didn't show any of the people in there. They just showed, the front picture of Trump with the crowd behind him. But see, they do that because when they show a Democrat with the crowd behind him, which is all they have, it's like when President Obama came to Las Vegas during the midterms, and they kept showing like, the people, right behind him, next to him. But there was somebody was there shooting a video, and they panned the audience, and he wasn't even in an arena, let alone anything else. He was in this little annex that's next door to it. They even had it cordoned off inside with curtains, big hanging curtains, because there's no way he's going to fill it up. And that's Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a very blue town, and he couldn't even begin to fill it up. But Trump, he can pack him in 25,000. I mean, it's not a problem. It's not even an issue. He can do it, no problem. Orlando's a great place to do it, that corridor there. I think they call it the I-70 corridor. If anybody's from Florida can tell me that Tampa Bay, Orlando corridor. Like you figure the South, that's Miami-Dade, that generally goes Democrat. The North generally goes Republican. And then that corridor is generally where you get your swing votes, and that's generally where you want to be. That's where you want to pay attention to the most. And so, excellent location, in Orlando there. I think the basketball team plays there at that stadium. Again, anybody from Florida, just chime in if you're from there, or anything about it. That's fine too. But yeah. So I mean, it was a great rally. He hit all the points. I was watching some MSNBC, and he said, "Well, what's he going to run on?" He says, "Oh, the enemy of the people and all that." Nah, it's like most. I watched the whole rally. I watched the whole speech, and most of what he talked about was the economy. And he talked about unemployment numbers for Americans, unemployment numbers broken down by ethnicity, unemployment numbers broken down by gender, by veteran status. And, of course, they're all great. I mean, lowest unemployment for women in 74 years, lowest unemployment for African Americans since when they first started recording it back in 1972. Hispanic Americans, lowest ever on record. Disabled veterans, the lowest unemployment ever for veterans. I mean, those numbers don't lie. I mean, of course he's going to run on the economy. Yeah, he's going to point out what they're doing to him because, as you see in this story here, when we get into the details of it, when you get into the weeds, and it's not going to be like, if you're expecting to be on the site tonight and me to be popping out at you with all, woo, look at this, wow. That's not tonight's show. Okay, tonight's show is about detail, about showing you, exactly what I was able to find out. And I was reading one article, and then I went to another article, and I said, what the hell are they doing? And I kept bouncing forth getting this information. And, I'm not a big detective or anything. It's just you have to spend a few minutes looking for it, but it's right there. I mean, right there, you can find it. So you see the headline there, FISA, at least the article up there right now, FISA court exposes Obama's abuse of NSA to spy on Americans. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump back to another story, kind of back this up a little bit. And we're going to start first with this headline, which didn't get, obviously, a lot of coverage, didn't get any coverage on the mainstream media. Italy sacks intel chiefs over Mifsud. Mifsud. I don't know. I wish it was Misfud. It would be easier to pronounce, but Mifsud. Brennan Russian hoax fiasco. And you remember the whole Mifsud thing? That's the guy who talked to Papadopoulos in March, mind you, of 2016. And for anybody who hasn't seen the movie Snowden, whether you like this guy or not, whether you like what he did or not, but what he did, he exposed what the Obama White House was doing. I mean, because remember, he exposed all this when President Obama was in the White House. And it really shows you what they can do. You'll see in here we're going to talk about something called a FISA 702. I put that in the description as well. And you'll see, basically like when Snowden, he's over there in, what country was he in? I can't remember. But he's in Switzerland, and he's doing some work over there, and he's talking to this one NSA guy, and the guy's on the computer and stuff, and he goes, oh, yeah, let me just pull up her laptop. And he goes, well, don't you need, and the guy looks at me, you mean like a FISA court warrant? He goes, what? Nah, we don't, nah, and he mentioned something, and I watched the movie, but I don't know if he said FISA 702 or something, but it's something to the effect like, oh, you can just do it like this. And he pulls up this woman's laptop, and he goes, oh, and the British invented this one thing where if you pull up somebody, if they have their laptop open, you can actually go and turn on their camera, and the little green light won't flick on. And you can actually watch from their camera on their laptop. You turn their laptop into a camera for yourself and a microphone as well. And no lights or anything pop on to show that you're actually watching them. And so, I mean, that was back, 2013 when all this was going down. And so it was like, the FBI says, oh, we started the official investigation in July of 2016. No, that's not true. And you'll see on this, I mean, Mifsud was talking to Papadopoulos in March of 2016, and he didn't just wake up and say, I'm going to go talk to Papadopoulos tomorrow. No, he was sent over there by Brennan to go do that, and Mifsud had worked for Italian intelligence. Mueller had put in his report that he was a Russian asset, a Russian agent. The Italians and Black Conservative Patriot covered this pretty good too. I think it was yesterday or the day before. He did a really good video on it. And you see that, Brennan Mifsud he was not a Russian asset, was not a Russian agent. The Italians came forward and say, no, he was not a Russian agent, he was not a Russian asset, he was ours. And by the way, the prime minister just fired the two top intelligence chiefs for the country. Because when he got into this, he found out that the Italian intelligence operation was being used by the CIA to spy on a campaign inside the United States. I mean, the prime minister went through the roof, and he fired these two guys. So here's the headline from June 8th. Again, not a lot of coverage out there. June 8th, 2019. And this is from Community Digital News, CDN. That's CDN, Community Digital News. So let's take a look at the story by L.J. Keith. Rome, Italy. The Prime Minister of Italy has fired two of the country's most powerful intelligence chiefs in a major shakeup. It was directly attributed to their participation with John Brennan and the CIA in using Joseph Mifsud to set up George Papadopoulos as a pretext for launching the Great Russia hoax of 2016. Russian agent Joseph Mifsud is actually an American asset. There we go. So this whole Mifsud thing, and Mueller lied in his report. I mean, just straight out lied. He knew who Mifsud was, and he knew who he worked for. And he knew he wasn't a Russian agent. He knew he wasn't a Russian asset. And Mifsud was the guy who talked to Papadopoulos saying, hey, you want to buy some hacked, Hillary Clinton emails, 33,000 emails. And Papadopoulos was like, what the hell? Who's it? What are you about? That kind of thing. Well, it was actually the CIA/FBI sent Mifsud over to meet with Papadopoulos. Now, here's the important thing. The reason why they're using Italian intelligence, British intelligence, Australian intelligence, because theoretically we still have in this country a law where the CIA cannot spy on Americans inside the United States or even outside the United States. So what they do is they farm it out to outside countries like Italy, Britain, Australia to spy on Americans overseas, not on U.S. soil. And, which is bullshit because, just because you can't, the CIA gets around it by just doing one little level. They don't even try to hide it. They just go one level away at Italy. That's why when Trump wanted to declassify all those documents, who was yelling the most? The British intelligence. Why was British intelligence yelling about Trump declassifying reports, on the CIA? Why? Because British intelligence got hired by the CIA to spy on the Trump campaign. And so did Australian intelligence, and obviously now we know Italian intelligence. So anyway, the use of Italian intelligence agencies to spy on members of the Trump campaign have roiled the internal workings of the Italian government at the highest levels. Simply put, Joseph Mifsud, who is represented in the Mueller report on page 1 as a Russian agent, is actually a senior Italian intelligence asset. He works with British intelligence, the CIA, and the FBI. Mifsud trains intelligence agents at a Center for Advanced Intel Studies in the hills above Rome. You don't think Mueller knew that this guy had some kind of, that he worked at a school in the hills above Rome in Italy? For Italian intelligence? You don't think Mueller could have known that? You don't think anybody told him, hey, by the way, the guy has this villa in Italy and he has a school that he teaches about spycraft in Italy? And then somehow Mueller says, oh, he's a Russian agent. Bullshit. If he was a Russian agent, how come Mueller didn't have him Papadopoulos indicted for conspiracy with the Russians? Why? Because he knew he wasn't a Russian agent, so he wasn't conspiring with the Russians. He was conspiring with an FBI CIA asset who worked for Italian intelligence. He is living there now. His rent is paid for by the Institute. This is a mysterious, quote-unquote, Russian agent that is at the very center of the official explanation of the origins of the Mueller probe. John Brennan, Peter Strzok, and Robert Mueller insisted Mifsud was a Russian agent. He was supposed to have told the hapless Papadopoulos the Russians had Hillary's 33,000 deleted emails. But how could Mifsud be a Russian agent when he was an Italian asset training American, British, and Italian intelligence agents in their tradecraft? He was working closely with the CIA and FBI. He is seen with FBI agents and senior intelligence officials at numerous functions, in D.C., I might add. It underscores the horrific reality of so much of what happened to Donald Trump during the rolling coup d'etat against his presidency. This was part of a greater conspiracy against the candidate, the president, the Constitution, the American people, the rule of law, and the truth. Mifsud was sent in by Brennan to set up Papadopoulos. He was an American asset from Italian intelligence spying on the campaign of the Obama political opposition. He was doing so in a foreign country to circumvent U.S. law. Again, U.S. law says CIA cannot spy on Americans on U.S. soil or cannot spy on, I don't think they can spy on Americans overseas, but they definitely can do it on U.S. soil, so they arranged for Mifsud, a foreign agent, to work with the Italians to go meet with Papadopoulos while he's overseas. Explicitly working with John Brennan and the CIA, Mifsud was a man with a long history with the FBI and American intelligence, with James Clapper and Jim Comey. Yet he is the essential, quote-unquote, Russian agent at the heart of the conspiracy theory of the Russia hoax foisted on the American people by Mueller and friends. Joseph Mifsud's meeting with George Papadopoulos was all on tape. Like all operations where an informant is infiltrated against a target, they are wearing a wire. It was recorded. There were government witnesses, incognito, observing the meeting. In other words, they had government witnesses, in the area watching the meeting just to, report back. There's probably a video. It is absolutely certain that there is a government recording in the verbatim word-for-word record of exactly what Mifsud said to Papadopoulos and what he replied back. The coming revelations of foreign government. Okay, so let's take a look to see who is Joseph Mifsud. We'll back into this story real quick. So, hey, here's the question. Who is Joseph Mifsud? Cleared by Mueller, Papadopoulos. Cleared by Mueller, Papadopoulos suggests Mystery Prof was an FBI agent. So Papadopoulos gives an interview. Papadopoulos just wrote a book. This is from the World Tribune, May 13th. So, a Maltese professor reportedly in the know, there's a picture of Papadopoulos next to Mifsud, a Maltese professor reportedly in the know on the 30,000 emails that Hillary Clinton ordered destroyed played a little reported but key role in the launching of the Trump investigation. Joseph Mifsud, an academic from Malta with alleged high-level connection to the Russian government, was, according to some reports, shopping information on the Clinton emails to Trump campaign associate George Papadopoulos. The Maltese man of mystery told the 20-something Trump advisor on April 26, 2016, that Moscow owned dirt on Clinton. Roman Scarborough reported for the Washington Times on May 12th. What followed was a series of events which culminated with anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok opening the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. And Crossfire Hurricane, that just shows you how disgusting these people are. Trump was playing like the Rolling Stones, like he does now, like you heard him playing today at his events. So Strzok and friends thought it'd be funny to call the operation Crossfire Hurricane, because as I looked up last night, Crossfire Hurricane is a famous Rolling Stones song. I think they took it, kind of in the genre of like Muddy Waters and stuff from the, the blues movement here in the 1960s. And so they thought it'd be funny to name it after a Rolling Stones song. It shows you how sick these people are. It just shows you how sick they are. That's why they named the operation Crossfire Hurricane, because it was a Stone song, and Trump was playing Stone songs at his events, and this was like, ha, 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 we're going to get you, you asshole. So that's who these people are. Hold on. All right, so anyway, Representative Devin Nunes, Papadopoulos said he has little doubt Mifsud was a Western intelligence operative, possibly FBI, a topic which observers say was conveniently left out of the Mueller report. Yeah, he kind of left that part out. Like the guy teaches at a school in Italy just north of Rome, and he's been doing that for years, and he lives there, and he has his rent paid by the Institute, and he works for Italian intelligence. I guess Mueller didn't know any of that. Well, yeah, no, I agree. These people, you're going to see just how long they've been busy. If you notice in the title, I put Obama, Italy, Brennan, Mifsud, Roberts, that's Chief Justice John Roberts, that's Justice Antonin Scalia, that's Michael Hastings, a reporter for Rolling Stone, who wrote for Rolling Stone, and also Mitt Romney. This goes back quite some ways. This goes back to 2012, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes here. This didn't just start yesterday. That's why this operation was ready to go in 2016. They had already done this once before. They did it to Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan back in 2012. Yeah. So, okay, look, I love Ronald Reagan, okay? Everybody knows that. I voted for the guy in 1984, first president I got to vote for. But I also watched the Reagan-Carter debate, the only debate they had in 1980. Stefan Halper was working for the Reagan campaign. Stefan Halper, name sound familiar? He also met with Papadopoulos in September of 2016 and Carter Page. And he was working for the CIA/FBI/Obama White House this time. Well, he did the same thing this time that he did back in 1980. To wit, in 1980, God, I hate saying this, he's the one who stole President Carter's debate preparation material and gave it over to the Reagan campaign staff. He's the one who did that. Him and his CIA friends who hated Jimmy Carter because Carter sacked like 3,000 agents. Because remember, Carter came in 76. He got elected in 76, came in 77. Remember, the CIA just went through the whole scandal with Laos, Vietnam, MK Ultra, and so Carter was going to clean house. He was a governor from Georgia, and he was going to come in and clean all these terrible, evil people out of the CIA. Well, the CIA didn't like that. So, sure enough, they have one debate, and what does Halper do? Halper steals, they called it DebateGate, came out in 1983. Halper steals all of Jimmy Carter's debate preparation material. So, if you watch that debate, if you're old enough to remember that debate, I do, the famous line where Reagan turns to President Carter and goes, "Oh, there you go again, Jimmy." And it was like the big line from the debate. And it was talking about when Jimmy Carter brought up the fact that Reagan wanted to, I believe, invade the Social Security Trust Fund to pay for whatever, or to reduce the deficit. And Reagan knew he was going to say that. And the reason why he knew he was going to say that, because Halper stole all his debate materials, and Carter was very much a guy who was on script. So, same thing here. So, anyway, 2012, you notice President Obama looked really, really sharp against Mitt Romney in those debates in 2012. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because he was spying on Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, and of course that leads to the staff and all the headquarters and all the emails and communications and all the computers and all who's writing this speech, who's writing this debate prep. Mitt Romney's a very much on-script kind of guy. He's not an ad-libber like Trump. Now, in 2016, as I stated a couple times on different shows here, 2016, Hillary Clinton had all that on Donald Trump also. It was the whole point of this Crossfire Hurricane. The official version was to get, debate preparation materials on Donald Trump, campaign strategy to spy on Page, which led to the Trump campaign and everybody else. So you can see, you could counter the Trump campaign strategy and specifically know what Trump was going to say during the debate. Well, here's the problem. Unlike unlike Jimmy Carter, Trump is not a guy who stays on script. Okay, he doesn't even, if you give him a script, say, okay, say this at the debate. Like I guarantee you, when Trump said to Hillary, remember he says, Hillary goes, "Well, I'm glad you're not in charge," or something like that, and Trump goes, "Yeah, good thing for you because you'd be in jail." I guarantee you, his staff didn't tell him to say that. I guarantee you his staff was probably cringing in the back room when he was saying that. So in other words, Trump didn't stay on script. So that's why Clinton looked so frustrated during the debates with Trump, because she's like, I have his script, and how come he's not staying on it? She was ready to counter everything he said because she knew what he was supposed to say and then counter it and win. So she would have cleaned his clock if he stayed on script. But Trump is such like a dick. He doesn't listen to anybody, doesn't take anybody's advice, just does what he wants to do. And thank God. Because if he had taken people's advice, if he had stayed on script during those debates, Clinton would have cleaned his clock, and he'd probably be President Clinton right now. So anyway, yeah, they've been doing this for a while. So Nunes of California, the ranking Republican on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, is suspicious about why Special Counsel Robert Mueller left out references to Mifsud's Western context. He sent a letter this month to intelligence chiefs asking for their files. If he is in fact a Russian agent, it would be one of the biggest intelligence scandals for not only the United States, but also for our allies like the Italians and the Brits and others. In other words, right, if this guy supposedly is a Russian asset, well, this guy's been a double agent for 20 years. It's like, how did they miss that one? Well, the truth is he's not a Russian agent. Nobody missed anything. So he goes, okay. So then he goes on to say, because if Mifsud is a Russian agent, he would know all kinds of our intelligence agents throughout the globe. FBI agents interviewed Papadopoulos in early 2017 as if he owned the keys to the kingdom. How Donald Trump and Moscow colluded, Scarborough wrote. Convivial agents, I can look that up. Convivial agents urged the campaign volunteer to fill them in on the new president's Kremlin capers. They knew there was no Kremlin capers. The Kremlin capers were them. Mifsud worked. Hey, Shonda, how you doing there, young lady? Hey, Darla. But yeah, I mean, look. Okay, here's how it worked. Okay, they send Mifsud over to talk to Papadopoulos. They tell, and his mission is to go to Papadopoulos and tell him about these Russian emails, these Hillary Clinton emails the Russians have, and they want to sell them. They want to shop them around. They want to sell them to the Trump campaign. It's going to help Trump campaign if he gets to the general election. Remember, he hasn't even won the nomination yet. And so then Papadopoulos is like, whatever. Well, anyway, then you have, what's the guy's name in Australia? I'll get to him in a second. Then you have the Australia agent. Well, let's find out. Let's see. Let's see if we can get to the Australian guy. Now let's go back over here. All right, so let's go back to this story real quick, and we'll get to the Australian agent. So then Papadopoulos meets with what's the guy's name? Damn it. Anyway, he meets with the Australian agent in London, and he says, hey, by the way, say what this Australian guy said was true. Okay, let's pull this headline up here. There we go. So anyway, so Mifsud meets with Papadopoulos March, April 2016. Tell him about, hey, and he's working for the FBI, CIA. His mission, John Brennan gives him a mission, go tell Papadopoulos about Russian emails, about Hillary Clinton emails hacked by the Russians. The next thing you know, Papadopoulos is meeting with this Australian intelligence agent in London over some drinks. And according to the Australian agent, Papadopoulos tells him about his meeting with Mifsud, where he offered him these Russian hacked, Hillary Clinton emails. So then this guy supposedly is surprised and goes and tells the FBI in July of 2016, hey, this Papadopoulos guy says he's talking to the Russians about Hillary Clinton emails. So then Strzok uses that information to, quote-unquote, start a counterintelligence investigation as a predicate. But the whole predicate was false to begin with, because Mifsud, that was a plant. The information was a plant to give to Papadopoulos, so he could tell the Australian guy, so the Australian guy could tell the FBI, and then Strzok could pretend like, oh, we're so shocked. Well, no shit, you're shocked. You're not shocked because you're the one who set the whole thing up. And then you use that as a predicate to say, oh, we need to start a counterintelligence investigation. So all the CIA nasty stuff they've been using in the past, well, see, they know they really can't use that stuff. They really can't use a lot of it because it's all CIA foreign intelligence gathering, right? And so when they open up but they use that as a base for their predicate for to get the investigation, and also a base for their information so they know which way to go, what direction to head in. And that's why they head in the direction of Carter Page, et cetera. So that's how the whole thing started. That's how the whole BS started. But anyway, let's continue on with this first story here. Okay, let's see. Mifsud was sent in by Brennan to set up Papadopoulos. He was an American asset from Italian intelligence, spying on the campaign of the Obama political opposition. He was doing so in a foreign country to circumvent U.S. law. Explicitly working with John Brennan and the CIA, Mifsud was a man with a long history with the FBI and American intelligence, with James Clapper and Jim Comey. Yet he is the central, quote-unquote, Russian agent at the heart of the conspiracy theory of the Russia hoax foisted on the American public. Joseph Mifsud's meetings with George Papadopoulos was all on tape, like all operations where an informant is infiltrated against a target. They are wearing a wire. It was recorded. There were government witnesses incognito observing the meeting. There is probably a video. It is absolutely certain that there is a government recording in the verbatim, word-for-word record of exactly what Mifsud said to Papadopoulos and what Papadopoulos said back. The coming revelations of foreign governments and their intelligence agencies being used to spy on Barack Obama's political opponents is going to soon go from a trickle to a cascade. It is part and parcel of the systematic, illegal use of NSA programs by the Obama White House to spy on prominent Americans, as ruled by the presiding judge of the FISA court, Rosemary Collier. And let's see. The Italian government is increasingly embarrassed at how their agency will be used to facilitate Brennan and the Russia hoax. It is probably the tip of the iceberg of the illicit cooperation between the agencies. The longtime professionals in charge were discredited and compromised and summarily dismissed. They were fired. And, here's the deal, too, and Black Conservative Patriot brought this up. Anyway, Italian prime minister is meeting they're like co-Italian prime ministers. Well, one of them was meeting with Mike Pence and also George Pompeo. Mike Pompeo. Well, he wasn't over here talking about this mess because he just fired those two intelligence chiefs. So he's coming over here to do, not on the phone conversation because he knows our own CIA, NSA is going to listen to it. And of course, those are the guys he's going to come over and talk to him about. So he gets on a plane, flies all the way over here. Well, at the same time, and this was reported as well by Italian press, at the same time, guess who goes to talk to the former prime minister who Barack Obama asked to allow his agents to spy on Trump? Barack Obama. Barack Obama is over there in Italy right now, at least he was yesterday, talking to the former prime minister to do what? Get their story straight. Okay, because Obama, that phone call, that had to be made at that level. The president of the United States calling the prime minister of Italy saying, hey, can my spies talk to your spies so your spies can spy on the opposition party, political candidate, president, then candidate Trump? That's a big question to ask. That's not some low-level question people are going to ask. And again, these are all civil servants. And trust me, I have a lot of dealings with civil servants. All they care about is their pension and their paycheck. Okay? And if you think these guys are going out on their own, starting all this against an opposition party's political candidate without cover from President Obama saying it was okay to do it, let's do this, you got to be nuts. There's no way, because say he didn't know, and then he finds out, and he gets mad, and then you're fired. You lose your pension. Maybe he even has you prosecuted. Who knows, to make himself look good. Well, there's no way they're going to take a chance like that unless he said it's okay to do it. But for that to happen, he's got to go over and he's got to call the Italian prime minister and say, hey, is it okay for my spies to talk to your spies to spy on President Trump? Because that's a pretty big deal. So anyway, at the same time that the current Italian prime minister is over here talking to Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence, Barack Obama suddenly need to go to Italy and talk to the former prime minister who authorized the spying for Barack Obama. And again, they just want to get their story straight, okay? Because, you remember when I talked to you about, yeah, okay. It's a hell of a coincidence, don't you think? Just a week after these two intelligence chiefs are fired, Barack Obama's in Italy talking to the former prime minister. And again, he's not going to pick up the phone and call anybody. No way in hell. He knows what happens with those phone calls. He's listened to those phone calls or email or text. He's read those texts. He's read those emails. He knows there's nothing safe. So he has to get on a plane and fly there, meet with the guy face-to-face in person under one of those weird anti-hearing shields or something. Well, because prosecuting would be a real pain in the butt and would probably split the country in two. So it's something else. Hey, great dirtbag. How you doing there? Mr. Dirtbag? Because it split the country in two. That's probably why. Look, if it gets down to nitty-gritty, then something's going to have to happen. I don't know what that something is, but it's going to be ugly. And my guess is it's going to be really ugly. I predict if there's anybody who's going to give it up instead of getting indicted and going to prison, I put my bet on James Clapper. Although Jim Brennan, I think they go neck and neck as to who would give it up because both those guys are they're civil servants also. I dealt with a bunch of civil servants today. Trust me, they're not anything smart. Anyway, oh look at this. We get finally to the name that I was looking for earlier. Alexander Downer. Yay! There we are. But anyway, let's back up a little bit. But anyway, good seeing you guys in the chat. Can you see a great dirtbag and Shonda and Darla. Good seeing you guys, Rocky. And who else was up there? Okay. Anyway, let's see. And everybody I said hi to earlier. But anyway, so let's see here. Embarrassed, blah blah blah. Okay, the issue of interfering okay, here we go. The issue of interfering so egregiously in such a deviously underhanded way to impair the electoral process and laws of the United States was now a matter of national honor. How could Italy have been used by Brennan in this fashion? What else had occurred? How could the intel chiefs have gone along with it? Now we get to the Alexander Downer story. This is the Australian guy that meets with Papadopoulos in London. And supposedly, assume what he's saying is true. Assuming Papadopoulos told him, hey, this guy Mifsud was telling me about it. He can sell me some, Hillary Clinton emails that, the Russians have. Assume that's true. Papadopoulos says he doesn't remember telling this guy that, but he said he was drinking pretty good that night. But assume he said it to him. Well, Downer was working for the CIA. Downer knew. He was part of the same operation. Okay, Mifsud, you're going to go talk to him first. Okay. And then Downer, you're going to go meet this guy again in London somewhere. Okay. And he's going to tell you what Mifsud told him. And then you're going to come back, tell us what he told you. And then we're going to say, predicate. Now we have to do a formal FBI investigation where we can actually put people on the record, tape, all that good stuff. And we can use it for a prosecution. Boom. Okay. Or at least use it to start to get a FISA court warrant, so then we can start spying on Carter Page, which we can go 4 levels out. If we watch the Snowden movie, they'll show you that. You can go 4 levels out. So one guy talks to 20 people, and then each of those 20 talks to another 20 people. Each of those 20 times 20 talks to another 20. You're talking like a million people at the end of the day. Well, eventually you can get to Trump, you can get to Kellyanne Conway, you get to Paul Manafort, you get to Lewandowski, you get the people running the campaign, you get the people at the campaign headquarters in Manhattan, you get the emails, the texts, the phone calls, the campaign strategy, the stops, the donor list. You can also get to the debate preparation materials. You get to all of it, and that's what it was. And then you got to shoot it up to somewhere. Well, it goes up. Remember, Joe Biden, liaison between DOJ, FBI, and the White House. Joe Biden. There's your fall guy. There's Obama's fall guy. Joe Biden. The idiot. Okay, you got to find an idiot. So anyway, Joe Biden, the liaison with the Clinton campaign, talked to John Podesta, a good friend of his for many years, who's equally as sleazy, who's not going to dime anybody out. Boom, real-time intel. That's the one thing. When Stephanopoulos asked President Trump, well, if they didn't make it public, what were they using it for? Well, the answer was they were using it for the same thing Stefan Halper used his intel in 1980 against Jimmy Carter on behalf of our friend Ronald Reagan. So, sorry. Again, I hate saying that, but it happened. And I'm not saying Reagan knew, but I'm also not saying he didn't know. I don't know if he knew or didn't know, but that information came to Reagan. Reagan looked like a genius on Carter. He cleaned his clock. It was the only debate. It was a few days before the election. It probably helped him win the election. Definitely, without a doubt. Definitely. That performance on that debate was stunning. Just stunning. Carter looked blown away. He looked like he didn't look like what hit him. He couldn't figure out why Reagan was always on top of it so much, why he was hitting all the answers so good. Carter was like, Jesus Christ, this guy really is smart. Well, no, Reagan wasn't that smart. He just had a script. And remember, they weren't allowed to bring notes onto the stage with them during this debate. Sorry, I was following this campaign big time. This is when I was a young, conservative Republican, and I was just really gung-ho and everything, So anyway, they weren't allowed to bring notes. When Reagan debated Carter, they were not allowed to bring notes onto the stage with them. But as soon as they got on stage, they could start writing notes. So as soon as they get on stage, I think Jimmy Carter gave the opening speech. The first thing Reagan does, boom, there's a pen up there, there's a notepad up there, and as soon as he gets up, he starts writing stuff down really quick. Because remember, he's an actor. He can memorize stuff. So he had all this stuff memorized in his head, gets up there, starts writing it all down. He's pretty much writing down what he's going to say to everything Carter's going to say, because he already knows. Well, same thing with Clinton against Trump, except Trump didn't stay on script, and same thing with Obama against Romney in 2012. And Romney did stay on script, so it actually worked for him. But anyway, so there's the deal on that. So Alexander Downer frames George Papadopoulos. Does the Australian government have an explanation for the participation of their senior diplomat, quote-unquote diplomat, Alexander Downer in the second leg of the framing of George Papadopoulos, where Downer supposedly spent a drunken evening with our favorite patsy, George Papadopoulos, where Papadopoulos supposedly confessed to his encounter with Russian agent handler Joseph Mifsud? And, and it's true. Maybe Papadopoulos never even said that to him. But then, they were drunk, and then he says, "Hey, he didn't say anything." Well, can you say he said it? Yeah, sure. Shit, who cares? Whatever. I don't want to have to spend another evening with this guy. Screw it. He said it. So anyway, that evening, Downer was so alarmed by James Comey's account. There you go on that one. Like Downer was really alarmed. He wasn't alarmed, and it's like, "Hey, guess what, man? He said it. Okay, cool. Ha ha ha." But anyway, that evening, Downer was so alarmed by James Comey's account that he rushed to tell his counterparts in the CIA and the FBI. The official version is that Downer was immediately suspicious of Papadopoulos and shocked by his collusion with the quote-unquote Russian agent and American asset Joseph Mifsud. Except here again, Downer was sent in by Brennan. It was all a setup. And like the other meetings with Mifsud, Downer was wearing a wire. There was a tape recording and a transcript of the meeting with Alexander Downer. If this wasn't a setup, why was he wearing a wire? Why was it being tape recorded? If he's just having drinks with some guy at a bar. I mean, I don't know about you, but, if I go out to a bar to have a couple of drinks with a friend of mine, I don't wear a wire, Like, I'm not going to record it for, later on, That's not how, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people out there do. They have a weird social life. I don't know. The whole thing was a setup. It was a setup from day one. See, they keep using the word hoax, and I think that's letting everybody off the hook. This was a fraud, okay? I mean, let's call it what it was. This was a fraud, okay? A complete fraud, okay? Period. Call it what it was. And like the other meeting with Mr. Downer was wearing a wire, there was a tape recording and a transcript of the meeting with Alexander Downer. It is reported that the transcript, rather than implicating Papadopoulos, actually exonerates him. Because if Mifsud was an American asset and Downer was an American asset, then the whole operation was a setup. Intentionally staged on foreign soil using MI6 and other wings of British intelligence to systematically monitor Trump associates in England, to track their movements, surveil the meeting with Downer, to spy on the Trump campaign. And now here comes Stefan Halper, the guy we were talking about, who got Jimmy Carter's debate preparation material for Ronald Reagan, which allowed Ronald Reagan to clean Carter's clock in the one debate they had and allowed Ronald Reagan to win and become president. This is the same Stefan Halper. Just 30 years later. Sorry. Anyway, Stefan Halper sets a trap with the help of British intelligence. That trifecta is Clinton associate and CIA asset Stefan Halper, who met with Papadopoulos twice. He was accompanied by accompanied at one of those meetings by an alarming piece of bait. This alarming piece of ass is actually what he wanted to say. On his arm in the form of a female FBI undercover agent using an assumed name. Yeah, so they bring some babe, So anyway, here again, Halper, a longtime CIA and State Department associate, and who was bringing that up about the State Department? I think Black Conservative Patriot was bringing that up about the State Department. So you need to look at the State Department. Also, Judicial Watch. I saw one of their stories, and he was saying, if Barr's looking at people, he needs to look at the State Department also, because they were right in the middle of this. But anyway, here again, Halper, a longtime CIA and State Department associate, a distinguished scholar, was sent in to trap Papadopoulos into incriminating himself. The woman, okay, this is a quote from Halper, or not Halper, from Papadopoulos, I believe. The woman was there to do whatever it took to nail her target. Well, I think that's from some report. Anyway, she is a confirmed FBI informant. The woman, probably an FBI agent. Both the women and Halper were wired. There's a recording and a verbatim transcript of both of Halper's meetings with Papadopoulos. And then this reporter asked, doesn't it strike you as odd that for more than 2 years the government has been asserting that these events occurred spontaneously? Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. They're saying, oh, Mr. just happened to have just run into Papadopoulos and have a meeting with him. Oh, and then Alexander Downer, he just happened to be having a drink in London with them. Oh, what a coincidence. And Stefan Halper, he just happens to be having another meeting with some babe FBI asset and Papadopoulos. I think it was in September. Let's see. I'm not sure if they say here, but I'm pretty sure that meeting was in September. But it was 2 meetings. And then it's funny, and that's why he writes. He goes, doesn't it strike you as odd that for more than 2 years, Mueller and the government have been saying that all the three of these events they just occurred spontaneously. It was just like, wow, amazing. This just happened to just happen like this. Go crazy. Go figure. That the Mifsud meeting was alarming and dangerous. It wasn't alarming and dangerous. It was set up. He was supposed to have that meeting. Mifsud was sent there to have the meeting. So it wasn't Downer wasn't alarmed. I don't give a shit what Comey lies about. Comey, I mean, they were probably laughing when they were on the phone or he got back to the office or whatever, or sent them a text saying, hey, by the way, meeting went down. Yeah, he said what he needed to say or whatever. Evidence of a conspiracy with Russia. So the Downer meeting was meant to create the illusion the Trump campaign was colluding with Russians, and the Halper meeting were meant to add a professional patina to the previous interactions to lend them credence. Yet all four interactions were completely scripted, surveilled, planned, and executed as part of the Russia hoax. Operation Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI code name that was a mockery of Trump's use of the Rolling Stone music at his rallies, was more like the early stages of the coup. Yeah. Then he goes on, the framing of the president. The Mifsud Downer Halper allegations became the invented pretext for the counterintelligence investigation launched against Donald Trump by Peter Strzok. The one, remember, Strzok, him and Lisa Page, getting together. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes sex, then comes babies, whatever. But anyway. This is on the same day Hillary Clinton was fraudulently exonerated. Yeah, this was what a coincidence that was. So the same day that Hillary Clinton gets exonerated, this is when Strzok starts his formal investigation. Remember, they'd already been doing the investigation with the CIA with this FISA 702 and with foreign agents. This was just now the official one, so you can have some kind of official thing going on. So anyway, that was on that same day that Stephen Halper was entrapping George Papadopoulos for the second time. Same day. Well, it's a pretty crazy day. Obama using foreign governments and the NSA to spy on Americans. The shocking reality is that this was a genuine coup d'etat against the Constitution and the citizens of the United States, against all Americans, planned in the Oval Office of the Obama White House, executed by John Brennan, James Clapper, and James Comey, weaponizing the CIA, DNI, FBI, DOJ, and foreign intelligence agencies to fraudulently target and destroy Donald Trump, using foreign governments as explicit co-conspirators to interfere in the American election. The Italians, the British, the Australians, and the Ukrainians, again and again, systematically. That it was used against a citizen and an opposition candidate is both reprehensible and illegal. To think that it was done at all is unconscionable. That it was used against a president is treason. Because remember, they kept going on this. Remember the big meeting in January 2017, and in the Oval Office, President Obama holds a meeting. Joseph Biden's there, supposedly like he's the liaison. Susan Rice is there, Valerie Jarrett's there, Clapper's there, Comey's there, Brennan's there. And Susan Rice, that's the one who she sent her that email about 2 weeks later on January 20th, the day Trump was getting inaugurated, about 1 hour before he got sworn in, and she lost her clearance and she lost her White House email account. She sent herself an email saying, "Oh, I was just part of a meeting describing a really weird investigation, and it was all done by the book." And that was it. And she sent it to herself, so there'd be a permanent record, because she knew something might come down the pipe, and she wanted to cover her ass. And that's all it was. And Susan Rice was the one who was outing everybody and unmasking people left way and sideways. Nonetheless, and that was after President Trump had won the election and prior to his inauguration, January 2017. A meeting run by President Obama in the Oval Office. Think about that. Plotting, it's like a movie 7 Days in May. It's like, and Burt Lancaster talking to Frederick March, and Lancaster's like, "Are you kidding? If I wanted to hold a referendum right now, and we did a show of hands," and he's talking to the then current president, and Lancaster's playing a military general, and Lancaster says, "If we had a show of hands, you'd be on a plane back to Ohio right now." And he goes, is that what you're looking for, a referendum? He goes, where do you find this referendum from the people? Where do you find the people's will? In back alleys, in freight elevators, in the dark of night with a room full of co-conspirators? Is that where you find it? No, you find it at the ballot box. That's where you find democracy. That's where you find the will of the people. Anyway, somebody should have been yelling that at President Obama, Joe Biden, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett. because, there was a room of co-conspirators right there. The Oval Office, January 2017. All the dirty laundry was together at one place at the same time. A group of co-conspirators plotting to undo a duly elected president. And I say duly elected because, see, they knew he was duly elected. They knew the Russians didn't change the outcome of the election. They knew that. Okay? They knew Trump didn't conspire with the Russians. They knew that. So they knew it was a fair election, and he won. Okay? Using the same strategy that Obama used in 2008, namely chase after the Electoral College, don't chase after the popular vote. Go win each state. Don't try to win a popularity contest. Don't try to win the popular vote. Win the states. Win the Electoral College votes. Okay? And Trump used the same strategy. And he didn't go for the popular vote. Clinton campaigned more times in California than she did in Michigan. I want you to think about that for a second. She had California locked up from the moment she said she was running for president. Okay? What was she doing in California? I think, 3, 4 times? I mean, what the hell is she doing there? In Michigan, none. Wisconsin, none. They were begging for her to go up to Wisconsin and Michigan. But no, she went to California because she went, I want to run up some vote numbers. Well, good for you. She already had the state locked up. So what the hell is she doing in California? It didn't make any sense. Well, it makes sense if you're stupid. But, yeah, then it makes sense. If you're an idiot or a career civil servant, there you go. Then you're equally really stupid. But anyway, let me read this last sentence again. These last 2 sentences. Using foreign governments as explicit co-conspirators to interfere in the American election, the Italians, the British, the Australians, and the Ukrainians, again and again systematically. That it was used against a citizen and opposition candidate is both reprehensible and illegal. To think that it was done at all is unconscionable. That it was used against the president is treason. The intersection of all this activity shows it was the Clinton campaign and the Obama White House over and over again that was working with foreign governments to impact our elections. And that doesn't even include the Steele dossier. This is where we're not even talking about the Steele dossier at this point. And that doesn't even include the Steele dossier of Kremlin and Ukrainian disinformation. That's all it was. Putin was like, yeah, give him. See, everybody says, oh, Putin was just trying to, screw Clinton over. No, what he was trying to do, he was trying to create all this disinformation out there so that no matter who won, they'd be under a cloud, an investigation. And that would only help the Russians. In other words, like if Clinton was getting investigated, okay, by, say, like the Republican House and Republican Senate over maybe some alleged nefarious things, okay, then that would kind of paralyze her administration. She'd be so distracted, maybe not paying attention like what's going on in Eastern Europe or what's going on in the Balkans or the Baltic states, rather. And that's what's going on in China. It would weaken her presidency. And so then the same thing, sending out, giving the information over to Steele. I mean, Putin, nothing leaves Russia without Putin's, hands on it. Putin was former head of the KGB. He runs that country with an iron fist. Nobody's leaking shit to anybody over there from Russian intelligence unless he says it's okay. So here comes Steele, sniffing around saying, well, he never even went to Moscow, which is funny. But saying, hey, I'm looking for some dirt on President Trump. And then he goes, oh, really? So the word gets back to Putin. He goes, hey, this idiot's walking around looking for dirt on Trump. And they said, oh, well, he ran the Miss World competition. He's been in Moscow a couple of times. He hates Obama, and he stayed in the same hotel Obama did. Okay, tell him he hired a couple of hookers to piss on the bed and make up some other stupid shit. Okay, and then just hand it to him. And why? Because it's going to screw with us, and he knew the mainstream media would just jump on it. See, in other words, the biggest part of this is in the role in all this nonsense is the mainstream media. He knew he could count on the mainstream media to run with these stories because they're stupid. And they love gossip. They're like the National Enquirer. And they hated Trump, and he knew that. So he knew if he put it out there, he's like, plant a seed, add some water, watch it grow. Well, he didn't even add any water. He didn't have to plant the seed. He just handed them the seed. They planted themselves, added the water, put sunlight on it, and, grew it on their own. So, I mean, he knew that would happen. So he was just working no matter who won, they were going to be under a cloud. That was Putin's strategy. And he's a nationalist. That's his country. Whatever. We interfere in elections. Every country interferes in other people's elections. He interfered in ours. Did he do anything to change the election outcome? Of course not. Well, a few Facebook ads, and the only reason why any of this took any traction was because the mainstream media ran with it. But anyway, so back to the story here, and that doesn't even include the Steele dossier of Kremlin and Ukrainian disinformation or the subsequent coup attempt and criminal events that have questioned the very foundation of a free republic. The Ukrainians provided questionable documents and dirt on Paul Manafort and Donald Trump that was conveyed to both the DNC and the FBI by the American ambassador herself. Ukrainian politicians hoping to cover favor were reportedly sources for good portions of the Steele dossier. Well, there you go. Think about that one. It was a systematic use of foreign and American intelligence agencies to spy on and to try to frame the presidential candidate of the political opposition, the Republican nominee for president. In the Mueller-Weissman report, they say on page 1 that Joseph Mifsud is a Russian agent. They know that is a lie. That destroys the credibility of the entire Mueller Inquisition all by itself. In other words, yeah, if Mueller's writing that on page 1, saying that Mifsud is a Russian agent, that this whole thing was around, and he knows it's not true. He knows that's not true. Well, then you can tell that the whole thing is biased. So everything he's going to write from that point forward. So when he comes down and says, well, on the obstruction thing, it could go either way, but it should go this way, and here's your roadmap, and everything, every speech he gives since, well, it's all bullshit. He's part of the whole problem, especially when he knows damn well Mifsud was not a Russian agent. The Italians just came on and said it. He goes, no, man, he works for us. Like, as if you didn't already know, because he's been living in Italy, teaching at this school just north of Rome, like his whole life. And he's been training your guys, maybe even some of the FBI guys on your team, the counter intel guys. Probably Strzok, I bet Strzok was over taking classes over there. Maybe that's why he knew to send Mifsud in. Who knows? Why didn't Trump announce that Pence was his running mate? What's up with that? I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know, Darla. Was there like a need that he had to say, and this is my running mate, Mike Pence? I don't know. We've been hearing about the arrest coming for 2 years now. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, right. I'm not sure anybody's going to arrest it. I'm not sure why he didn't announce, like, this is my running mate. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't really read anything into that. So it's not like, well, gee, is. No, I don't read it. I'm sorry. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't read anything. I don't read anything into that. So, anyway, they claim the Ukrainian. Okay, so anyway, this is what I say. They claim that Ukrainian Konstantin Kilimnik was a Russian agent when he is actually a known asset of the American State Department. Another guy. The Mueller-Weissman Inquisition report altered transcripts to smear White House Attorney John Dowd. They did the same to Michael Flynn. The FISA application against Carter Page, among its many illegal foundations, failed to mention that Page was an FBI informant against Russian agents for over 4 years. He was working with us. What it all shows is that the entire Russia hoax was a fraud from the beginning, a sham, an illegal series of operations aiming to desecrate the American political system. There must be a reckoning, this is the reporter. There must be a reckoning. From its very inception, the Mueller-Weissman report have all been part of the one corrupt, wholesale, ongoing continuum. The biggest scandal and abuse in American political history. I totally agree. And nobody's covering it. Why? Because they don't want to. Because they don't want to admit what happened. And, of course, it can't be against President Obama because they love Obama. Even Stephanopoulos. Do you think really, he's like the way he asked it, do you think Obama really spied on you? Like that would be someone heard of. Like Obama would do that. Now, Trump, of course, well, he'd do that in 2 seconds. Of course, Trump would do that. No question about it. But Obama, he's such a nice guy. He wouldn't do that. No, he only spied on a bunch of AP agents, Associated Press reporters, rather. He only did that. He only spied on, Antonin Scalia and Mitt Romney. Oh, no, but no, he wouldn't spy on you. The actions of the Italian government are one of the more indications of the stunning nature of the coming unseemly revelations from the Durham investigation. That's John Durham, U.S. Attorney out of Connecticut. That guy's a nightmare on Elm Street. He's a dick. Nobody likes him. He has no friends. And he's exactly the kind of guy you want on this. He takes no prisoners, takes no hostages. He's a fighter. You can tell just by the way he looks. He looks like a dick. I've been told I'm that too, so I kind of appreciate the compliment. But anyway, this guy's a complete dick. I'm not nearly as much as he is. So this guy's going to get to the bottom. He doesn't care who is going to, wherever the evidence leads him, he's going there, and that's it. So anyway, of the stunning nature of the coming unseemly revelations from the Durham investigation revealing the full range of crimes of the Obama White House, at least Italy seems to finally have found a conscience. So anyway, speaking of John Durham, nice little segue. Boom. Durham investigation is a nice little cartoon. Let me drop this down here so you can see it. Where is it? Where's my thing? Oh, there it is. Boom. And let me get rid of myself for a second. There we go. Okay. Durham investigation. Yep. Let's see. I'm trying to get it so you guys can see it all. Oh, that looks pretty good. Durham investigation. German investigation. President Trump can't be indicted, but Obama can be. And it's a little cartoon. And that's, I think, would say that would be like Bill Barr. And he says, and there's Brennan, Lynch, Clapper, and Comey at the desk. And there's Barr with a notepad spying investigation. And he's reading, at some point, we may have to talk about the elephant in the room. There's a picture of Obama in the background with the big ears, the elephant trunk. Yeah, so that's actually pretty funny. But I like the way they show like Comey all straight up and Clapper like and Lynch all looking over at Brennan and Brennan with his eyes closed. And there's Obama in the background saying, yeah, we're going to talk about this guy because this guy, we know this guy gave you guys the marching orders and the approval to do all this. And so which one of you, basically saying, which one are you going to dime him out first so you don't have to go to prison? Because if you think Clapper's going to prison for 25 years or 10 years or 2 years or 1 year or any years, you're nuts. Or Brennan or Comey, no, me, not going to happen. Nah, they're gonna come clean pretty quick. Susan Rice was already hinting at making a deal when she sent that email to herself. But anyway, so let's get back to this story. And excuse me, boom. Let's see, is this the right one? Let's see. Nope, let's do a different one. There we go. All right. So, yeah, welcome to Carl's Opinion. Hey. Anyway, let's get back to this story. And this is from the, CDN, Community Digital News. Durham investigation, boom. Okay, as British spy Christopher Steele finally agrees to be interviewed by U.S. Attorney John Durham, the sordid truth about the Obama-Clinton-Russia hoax begins to unravel. It is only a matter of time before the long-running campaign of illegal spying. Love the Dumbo ears. Yeah, that was a pretty good cartoon, Darla, I must admit. I mean, whoever drew that did a really good job. I like that. That was pretty good. But anyway, so as British spy Christopher Steele finally agrees to be interviewed, I know, Rocky, that was good. Hey, Effie loves America. How you doing there, young lady? See you there. But so let's see. The sordid truth about the Obama-Clinton-Russia hoax begins to unravel. It is only a matter of time before the long-running campaign of illegal spying on Americans and the criminal use of NSA surveillance programs is revealed, and later the feat of the Obama White House and Barack Obama himself. There's a picture of Obama looking down on the White House. Da-da-da. All the way to the Oval Office. The United States Attorney for the District of Connecticut, Durham, has been on that case since at least October of 18. The first actions being conducting a criminal leak investigation at DOJ official James Baker. Baker's at the center of the FBI conspiracy with Comey and Andrew McCabe. Let's see. With every new revelation about the corrupt attempts to exonerate Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump emerges, the trail leads inexorably to Barack Obama's inner circle. And there's a little picture of Barack Obama's inner circle. There's Obama, Lynch, Comey, Sally Yates. There's Clinton in the middle, of course. Andrew McCabe, Orr, Carlin, Page, Strzok, Baker, Price-Stapp, and the people down at Fusion GPS. There's Simpson, and then, of course, there's Steele. There's Clinton again. Jacoby, I don't know who she is. And there's Nellie Orr, that's Bruce Orr's wife. From spying on Americans to the framing of George Papadopoulos to the launching of a counter-espionage operation against Donald Trump and abusing the FISA court process, crimes were committed at the highest levels of the government that could only have occurred with the knowledge and participation of the occupant of the Oval Office, to wit, Barack Obama. Yeah, there's no way these are civil servants. Anybody who's ever dealt with civil servants tell you two things: paycheck and pension. That's it. Pension primarily. There's no way they're going to take a chance, do something that they didn't think he was behind, he approved, he said was okay. Boom. Remember, there was a couple of different text messages Strzok sent. One, he said, going to brief POTUS. Well, what the hell is he going to brief POTUS about? And two, POTUS has the operation. POTUS is running the operation. POTUS wants to stay in the loop, that kind of thing. Lisa Page was asked about those text messages. What do they mean? And she goes, they meant exactly what it said. POTUS is running the operation. POTUS wants to be informed. Okay? So, obviously. And again, he did this back in 12. We'll get to that in a few more minutes. And the nexus of the whole affair is President Obama. It simply could not have happened without his knowledge and consent, if not his instructions. It is obvious that former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton did conspire with the CIA Director John Brennan, the Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, and the head of the FBI James Comey. A nice little cartoon there also. Yeah. They actually look better than they do in real life. Together, they set forth to frame Donald Trump with Kremlin disinformation in the form of the Steele dossier, weaponizing the CIA, DNI, DOJ, and FBI to fraudulently launch a counter-espionage investigation. Abusing the FISA court in the process, their tools included leaked classified information targeting the incoming president with a phony Steele dossier. Launching a heavily biased special counsel inquisition using the same co-conspirators who framed Donald Trump in the first place. Yeah, you think? It was all a nefarious conspiracy to paralyze the government and attempt to overthrow the will of the people, the Constitution, and the legitimately elected President of the United States. Here we go. POTUS wants to know everything. Does anyone think for a minute that this just occurred naturally? It is inconceivable that CIA, State Department, DOJ, and FBI could be conducting this type of subversively delusional operation without the direct knowledge and approval of the president himself, proven by his own cabal's words. POTUS wants to know everything, Peter Strzok texted to his co-conspirator lover, sexpot, mistress, adulterer, person, violation of one of the Ten Commandments, by the way. His co-conspirator released a page on one occasion. POTUS wants to know everything. And, second line, the White House is running this on another occasion. Sending a text message. See, they thought she was going to win. So none of this would come out. And even if she lost, they were going to bury it and paralyze Trump so much he would never be looking in this direction. Anyway, so such honesty needs no explanation, but Lisa Page gave one. It meant exactly what it said it meant, she testifies. In other words, they asked her, what do those mean? She goes, they meant exactly what it said it meant. POTUS wants to know everything, and the White House is running this. Boom. There it is right there. In the words of Peter Strzok. The Weissman-Strzok insurance policy. Strzok did promise Lisa Page that Trump would never be president. We'll stop it, he texted. What a dick. He talked about an insurance policy. The man who was instrumental in fraudulently clearing Hillary Clinton was at the center of both the launch of the Trump counterintelligence operation and the Mueller Inquisition. He and Andrew Weissman were instrumental in using the Steele dossier to lie to the FISA court. They both knew it was a fraud to begin with. Of course they did. They knew the whole thing. The whole thing was bullshit. They both knew it was a fraud to begin with. How Weissman and Strzok ended up on the Mueller Inquisition is a testament to its corrupt motives and beginnings. Right. In other words, Weissman and Strzok are the guys lying to the FISA court, working this whole operation with Mifsud, Downer, and also Halper, and these guys end up on Mueller's team. Well, really? Okay. And Strzok ended up getting fired because he didn't get fired because Mueller thought he was dirty. He got fired because the public found out how dirty Strzok was. I'm sure Mueller knew that what Strzok was about. Peas in a pod. Okay, they both hated Trump. They both wanted him gone. It was a cynical exercise in the surreal destruction of the rule of law at the very top of the Justice Department of our own government, a treasonous abrogation of every standard of law and decency. So if, quote-unquote, POTUS wants to know everything, what exactly does that mean? It means Obama was in on the scheme from the very beginning. He helped orchestrate it. It means that the corruption and scandal behind the desperate measures of the coup plotters is much bigger and goes much deeper than the public is aware. Orchestration and authority can only come from the top. The orchestration and coordination of the Clinton campaign with the DNC, the State Department, the DOJ, and the White House was seamless. It was. Nobody heard about it while it was going on. That's what they mean. It was seamless. The use of British, Australian, Italian intelligence assets to spy on the Trump campaign was without pretext or precedent. Sidney Blumenthal, a good friend of the Clintons, making regular forays to the John Kerry State Department to help create and spread the veracity of the Steele dossier. Incredibly, we now know that the FBI used Blumenthal to vouch for the veracity of Christopher Steele in the first FISA application. Sidney Blumenthal, a Clinton confidant, friend for decades, and they used him to vouch for the truthfulness of Christopher Steele in the first FISA application. But what were they so desperate to stop? But why were they so desperate to stop Trump? And how does any of this implicate Barack Obama? Start with unmasking, leaks, and Susan Rice. Ben Rhodes and Susan Rice unmasked Trump associates. Hundreds of times. Samantha Powers at the UN unmasked over 300 people in 2016 alone. James Clapper unmasked and leaked the Michael Flynn intercepts. A meeting of the coup plotters in the Oval Office. Here we go. Where do you find the will of the people? Huh? in a room full of co-conspirators, in back alleys, in freight elevators, in the late of night. No, you find it in the ballot box. That's where you find democracy. That's where you find the will of the people. Anyway, great movie, great book. If you ever get a chance, read the book first, then see the movie, because you read the movie doesn't. The book covers all this great detail. 7 Days of May. The movie does a good job. Kirk Douglas, Burt Lancaster, Frederick March, Ava Gardner, by the way, who was going to fry him up a steak. But anyway, a meeting of the coup plotters in the Oval Office with Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Sally Yates, Susan Rice, and Joe Biden in early 2017 was later memorialized in a cover-your-ass memo on January 20th, the day Trump entered the White House. Here's a nice picture. Look at these evil people. Look how evil they look. Evil people. Evil. Go away, evil people. And those are evil-looking people. Anyway, back to the email she sent herself. Rice insisted. This is what she wrote in the email. Rice insisted that a very unusual investigation was about to be exposed and had been conducted, quote unquote, by the book. This was even as the coup plotting participants in the meeting concluded that they may have to keep some information from the incoming president. It is outrageous on the face of it, but they are hiding a lot more than that. According to a ruling of the FISA court presiding judge Rosemary Collier, the White House has been using NSA and surveillance systems, including PRISM, to spy on American citizens illegally since at least 2012. Let's see, we get to this story. We go back to this one. FISA court exposes Obama's abuse of the NSA to spy on Americans. And there they all are. Well, except for the good guy there. Hey, Donald Trump. Anyway, Washington, D.C. This was from May 28th this year. Sorry. The Obama White House used the most sensitive, intrusive surveillance systems of the NSA. Wait, who wrote this? Oh, CDN again. Community Digital News. Sorry, guys. The Obama White House used the most sensitive, intrusive surveillance systems of the NSA to spy on Americans. A ruling by FISA court presiding judge Rosemary Collier finds that 85% of NSA database requests under FISA Section 702 authority at the DOJ were illegal or non-compliant. Surveillance systems, including PRISM, spying on hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans, including Donald Trump and those around him. Moreover, Collier finds that the Department of Justice showed an appalling lack of institutional candor. I guess when they're talking about when they did the warrant request. FISA Judge Collier rules illegal spying occurred. In April 2017, Judge Collier found that unwarranted and illegal surveillance of American citizens was done by the highest reaches of the Obama administration for at least 4 years, starting in 2012. 2012, what was going on in 2012? Oh, we had an election. It was President Obama versus Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. Anyway, moreover, James Comey did authorize and allow for limitless, continuous, unlawful, and warrantless access by 3 federal contractors. That those contractors had access to over 40,000 searches of the NSA programs and databases, including PRISM, during the 48-month period of time. Now, see, here's the deal. The NSA, every phone call we make, every communication like this right here, we're doing this internet thing, every communication we make, every phone call, every text message, every email, now with even locations of your phone based on your track, if you have a cell phone, all the information about, all the information that Google stores and everybody else stores, Facebook stores about where you go, where you drive, where you stop, like Tucker Carlson showed, the phone stores and all that information, they get all that. And they store in these big, huge databases, these big buildings with all these servers, right? Now, normally you need a FISA court warrant to access it. I mean, it's all there going back 20, 30 years. Somebody says, okay, we want a FISA warrant on Jogger, and they get one on me, right? And they can go back 20 years. They can see everybody I talked to for the last 20 years, listen to every conversation I had, every email, whatever, I've done in the last 20 years. Even cars, like what if I had a car that had a computer on it? Whatever, smart TV, if they happened to be checking that out at a given time. So anyway, so they have all this stored, but in order to access it, you need a FISA court warrant. But as that movie Snowden showed, you should watch that. I watched it on, of all places, I watched it on Amazon. There you go, watch it on Amazon. There you go. Jeff Bezos' company. But anyway, so I watched Snowden, and they showed how they were just abusing this. Like Snowden's talking to this one NSA guy when they're in Switzerland, and he says, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm looking this up. Well, don't you need a FISA court warrant? No, we don't do those. And I think he might have said one of these FISA 702 things. So anyway, and they use these contractors, whatever, to access. So anyway, you normally need a warrant to access it, but if you do it this way, you don't. You access, you can pull up all this information. 40,000 searches, and this judge found that 85% of them were illegal. Illegal, nonetheless. Okay, 40,000 searches in a 48-month period of time, and 85% of those were illegal. Out of approximately 5,000 searches of the NSA database from October 16th to April 17th in the National Security Division of the DOJ, let's see, 4,250 of them were deemed illegal or non-compliant by the presiding judge of the FISA court. This is after the fact. That its targets were American citizens, prominent Republicans. That the abuse was continuous, frequently entering the same person's name over a protracted period of time. It wasn't a one-time deal. They were following everybody. Collier ruled that this information was shared and disseminated unlawfully to John Brennan and James Clapper. Well, what do you think they took it to? Furthermore, information was disseminated within the Obama administration in violation of the Fourth Amendment. Let me get some water real quick. My smartphone told me not to listen to you. Oh, see? The deep state. They're like talking to you. Don't listen to Carl. Don't listen to Carl. He's wrong. Yeah, see? May I call with a question? Yes, you may call with a question. Effie loves America, wants to know if she can call with a question. Yes, you can call. So if you want to call, give me a call. I will grab the phone call. Let me grab some water. While you're getting ready to call, I'll grab a bottle of water. About a 14-second delay. So you should be hearing this in about 14 seconds. Well, actually, you're hearing it now, but when I spoke it, it was 14 seconds before you heard it. So there you go. So you should be hearing it now. So yeah, Effie, if you want to give a call in, then go ahead. Yep, speaking of which. Hey, Effie loves America. How you doing?
Hi, Mr. Carl. Why is that funny?
No, just the way you said it. You said like, "Hi, Mr. Carl."
Okay, I don't know what I was doing. I don't know. Multitasking. I'm multitasking.
You're probably like
while I'm working
on all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
And stuff. And in data forensics, we have something called a smoking gun file, and it's a fictitious thing. It's kind of like an in joke where you say, "Yeah, I hope I find that smoking gun file," because you're trying to figure out if an employee is stealing corporate information, and you hope you find a file that says stolen corporate information, that sort of thing.
Right.
And sometimes you do.
It's like the guy puts it in the subdirectory and he names it stolen corporate information.
Yeah.
Right.
Super secret. Don't look here. So not usually how it goes, but it can happen.
Right.
So I was just wondering. You were reading the center of this article, and you made some comments about these, various, basically bureaucrats, right? Like you said, pension, retirement.
Right. Yeah, remember they were going to fire McCabe. Like, no, don't fire him before his pension, all that shit. Remember that?
Yeah. Now, all the actors in this drama, a lot of these actors are bureaucrats, FBI bureaucrats, et cetera, DOJ bureaucrats. So, question.
Yeah.
Even if someone, because I've dealt with bureaucrats and, kind of my line of work, you deal with everyone, but they don't do things unless it's written down.
Ah.
You know what I'm saying? They're all about CYA.
Right.
So my question is, do you think somebody's got something documented?
Well,
in that regard, like in other words, you have permission, and that there's a trail, because in my experience, there is always a trail.
I agree to you, but one thing you can't say about Barack Obama, you can't say he's a dummy. There's no way now. You got Joe Biden to sign off on it? Remember, Biden was the liaison between the FBI, DOJ, CIA on this operation. So maybe he's like, "Hey, Joe, sign this, idiot." I mean, I didn't say that out loud. Just sign this, Joe.
Yeah. Just sign it.
Right. I can't see Barack Obama signing anything. No way. If he did.
Is that called de facto permission? So
yeah.
His Biden operating as a.
Right. Kind of
was
like.
It always? Was it technically Biden's job? As vice president to do that?
No, but they made him the liaison between the White House. Again, remember, okay, Obama never liked Biden. Yeah. He never liked Biden. He had Susan Rice, Samantha Powers, Valerie Jarrett. Those were his friends. Ben Rhodes, whose brother runs CBS or something. It wasn't going to be one of those. No, give it to the idiot, the guy he doesn't like, the guy he had to pick for VP. Not that he wanted to. So he became the liaison. He's the one who called the meeting in the Oval Office. He's the one who set that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Obama's like, yeah, thanks. Well, Biden might have been smelling something going on too, like, hey, I'm going to be the fall guy. Like hell, I want a meeting with the president and all the players together. I'm not going to be the fall guy. He might have seen he was getting ready to be, taking a fall. So the meeting was in the Oval Office too.
But Biden wasn't smart enough to CYA, because if he had been, he'd have some document that he could hold over Obama's head, and Obama would be promoting Biden's presidency.
I agree. Right. I agree. If Biden was smarter, well, Obama would have never done it anyway. I don't give a shit how he would have said, hey, you know what? Be a team player.
Because he hated Biden that much.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, that's funny you bring that up. I'm glad you brought that up, though, because I didn't think about that. That these guys don't do anything unless there's something in writing. So somebody had to do this. It's okay. Not just a nod of the head or a wink or something. Something in writing.
Particularly the employees of the DOJ, any bureaucrat in the DOJ, they're going to know what's legal and what's not legal, and whether they're doing something outside of the law. And that administration's changed, and they're going to know all the ins and outs of that, including statute of limitations. Well, and so I'm just saying, they're going to have some kind of guarantee, some kind of assurance, and that's going to be traceable.
Right. It's just how far up does it go? How far up did it go with somebody's signature? I think the furthest it would have gone would have been Joe Biden's signature. Nobody else above that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the key players having, just a verbal agreement, and then department heads signing, but at least you could kind of piece together then, how did you come up with it? If you can find one signature, if you can, so to speak, smoking gun, some permission given by somebody. Where did you come up with this plan?
Right. Well, the nice thing about Durham.
That's when you start breaking down the people.
Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about Durham. Remember that commercial? Let Mikey try it. He hates everything. Durham hates everybody. He didn't like anybody. He has no friends. You can tell he has no friends. Yeah.
He's not like you. Everybody loves you.
Yeah. I have so many friends all over the place. Yeah. A good attorney. He's straight up. A good attorney will not have lots of friends. That's just the truth of it.
Yeah, that's true.
A bad attorney will have lots of friends. He's always making deals. The only friend an attorney has is his client, and that's not even his friend. This is the guy that he works for.
Well, no.
That's it.
Exactly. I have to explain that to a lot of people. It's funny, it comes up in my business, but if we change money, if money changes hands between us, we're not friends.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I'm paying you for a service or you're paying me for a service. If money changes hands, we're not friends.
Right.
It's just we can become friends maybe at another juncture, but as long as we're in a business agreement, it's a business thing.
Well, the added problem for attorneys too and a lot of clients want you to be their friends. They think you'll fight harder. The problem is, though, you won't fight more effectively because you're not detached. So you're going to believe everything your client says because
Right.
he's your friend. So you won't see it coming when it comes down the other side and you get hit with something by surprise. That suddenly your friend did
Right.
something wrong and you weren't prepared for it. You didn't ask the right questions. You didn't ask the tough questions of your quote unquote friend. That's why your client should never be your friend. Otherwise
Right. Sure.
you
That
won't be
makes sense.
effective. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it just struck me when you were commenting in the middle of the article, and yeah. So I just you know how these bureaucrats operate. They need the
Yeah. Good
CYA, and
point. I didn't
they
think of
need it
that.
documented for their own security. They exit strategy, etc. They need to be able to hold on to something, especially when they're in the DOJ. They know they're doing something illegal.
Right.
They have to be able to hold something over somebody, or at least say, I had permission, this is extraordinary circumstances, and here's my proof, so that they don't get in trouble, because they know they could be the patsy.
Right. It's like when Bruce
So it
Orr.
was all this guy. He just did it.
It's like when Bruce Orr met with McCabe in the summer of '16 and turned over the Steele dossier that his wife produced. He had Lisa Page there, and McCabe forgot about that meeting, I guess, because he didn't put it in his book. He left that part out. Well, both Page and Orr testified. Yeah, there was a meeting, and Orr told them, "Hey, look, I got this, but it came from opposition research, so you better vet it. You really better vet, excuse me. You really better vet this thing because it's opposition research. My wife wrote it, but it's opposition research. Vet it." And McCabe's like, "Yeah, no problem. We got it. We'll take it from here." Well, they never vetted it, but Orr can come back and say, "I told him," and Page goes, "Yeah, he did." There
Yeah.
you go.
Well, in that case, McCabe was not being very clever, because just a verbal discussion. Hey, I always say to people, if it's not written down, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's because there's no guarantee the other party is going to say, yeah, that's what we talked about. That's exactly what we said.
Well,
Yeah,
supposedly
that doesn't
Page,
happen all the time.
is cooperating big time with everybody,
Yeah,
including
that's
DOJ,
interesting.
Durham, everybody. She's like, "Hey, hey, I'm all over this. Here you go. Whatever you need, you got it." Because she's not going down. You know, she's like, "I'm not going to prison. Screw that." So she'll probably be able to keep her license,
Right,
her
which
law
makes me
license.
wonder. It makes me wonder why, if there isn't maybe some other middleman in this deal that's holding on to an email or a love note or another text or something that says you have permission, in so many words, to,
Well, yeah, and you'd hold that,
proceed with this investigation,
right, and you'd hold on to
because
that
when it
for a while.
escalated to spying, it escalated to spying on a private citizen.
Yeah.
That isn't even okay. So
Well,
they know that. They
I
know.
think I think CIA started this, and say Comey was involved at just a really super high level. Maybe Strzok, because Comey knew Strzok hated Trump. But I think until July, it stayed within CIA, NSA, Comey, maybe Strzok, and that's about it. And then in July, when they had that false predicate with the Mifsud Downer meeting, then they could bring everybody else in. I think I'm not sure. Maybe McCabe got brought in early too. Remember his wife got a big chunk of change from the Clinton friend, the governor of Virginia, whatever his name was, can't remember. But maybe just a few at the top. Very few people. And then of course
Yeah.
Strzok was texting to Page because he was having sex with her. So and that's how
Yeah,
Page
and
got brought in.
so as sloppy as they were with their
Well, we don't know how
communications,
sloppy they
knowing.
were. I mean, that's kind of a hell of a judgment to make. I mean, we don't know about their, lifestyles. We don't
I'm
know.
talking about
We don't
their
know like what kind of sex they
communications. Carl,
had.
get
I
your
mean,
mind out of.
you're assuming it was
I'm,
sloppy sex. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a big assumption.
I really, Carl, get your mind out of the gutter. I was talking about their text messages
Oh, okay.
being sloppy communication-wise,
Okay.
And,
Sorry.
wow,
Well,
went all the way to there.
Well, it wasn't that far to go.
Anyway. Jeez. Have we had a couple of wines tonight or something?
Nah, I don't drink.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, dear. That's just what popped into my head. I'm saying because of the, shall we say, indiscreet way of speaking that those two engaged in their texting and their communication, knowing full well that there is no such thing as private anything now.
Well, the funny thing about that is like, you're right. I mean, see, Strzok, for all his faults, was like one of the top counterintelligence guys in the world. I mean, one of the top guys in the world. That's why Mueller brought him on so quick.
Is this a pride coming before a fall situation? They're just so arrogant that
Maybe
they think the rules just aren't going to apply to them.
Yeah, because I mean, again, Strzok was like one of the top guys in the whole world. I mean, he was great at this. I mean, obviously he set up Flynn, Page, Papadopoulos. I mean, he put all this together and did a great job doing it. Just uses powers for evil instead of good. So, and the idea, they're so smart, they would send everything in text. I mean, they know, right. And it's funny, at first they said they lost all the text messages, remember? And then the Inspector General got involved, and he said, I want all those text messages, because he can, he had a grand jury. He can say, hey, I'll send people to prison. I don't care. I'm the Inspector General. Screw all you guys. And so suddenly they found him, remember? First they lost him, and then he got involved, and suddenly it was like, we found him.
Yeah. Well, the numbers alone, the quantity of documents and people and how many
500 search warrants.
How many warrants?
500 search warrants. Yeah.
500. So yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna hear something else. There's gonna be more. There's gonna be a document
definitely.
of some kind, some form or fashion, and it's going to be a bit of a smoking gun, I think. And it's going to at least be partial. It's going to be at least part of the web that we know includes Obama. And
yeah, I think it gets.
The meeting.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, of course, the meeting itself probably not recorded or documented in any official capacity, but everything after that would be. It's enough. See, there's a lot of in forensic data. You piece together information from the absence of data as much as from the presence of it.
Right.
In other words, suddenly a bunch of players act on a particular date in a particular direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like thermodynamics. Equal opposite reaction.
Well, remember, all the tactics.
Bodies to move in motion.
Remember all the tactics Mueller used, like tracking people's cell phones and stuff from where they were at a given date, different time, whatever. Well, guess what Durham's doing? He's getting those same search warrants. So he's going to know where everybody was at any given date or time. And like you said, if they were so sloppy with their text messages, they're probably sloppy also when they have their phones with them.
Sure. And you know what, Carl? There's a room somewhere in Washington, D.C. right now. There's a room, and I would love to see that room where all of this stuff is spread out on the walls, on the whiteboards.
Probably in Connecticut. Probably up there in Durham's office.
I would love to get a few minutes in that room.
Oh, it would be great, wouldn't it? Oh my God, to see all this pieced together.
To see it, Yeah, I want to see the lines and what they draw on them. Okay, this start at this start, because I could see the points of start and end for actions and the players, because then you can see from the absence of data, as I said. Say 5 high-level people all start to work on the same project on the same day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They didn't all get that idea in their head simultaneously without communicating A, and B, somebody above them telling them to do it.
Well,
it's...
Well, supposedly, Brennan was bringing all this to the president in those eyes-only documents. So they were documents. They just weren't part of the daily intelligence briefing. So now, Brennan, being a cover-your-ass guy yourself, obviously
Sure.
he didn't burn those. Those are stored somewhere. Okay? Because
Somewhere.
that's his cover his ass.
Yeah.
Right.
So somebody somewhere needs to be offered a deal, and that'll just blow the whole thing open. And these people are obviously, just as I said, they're not, shall we say, discreet in their communication, as evidenced by those texts. So and they're so, oh, how can I put it? They are out to get Trump and everything, but they're also just so, what's the word I'm looking for? They're arrogant and they're malicious and they're,
well, supposedly two things. One, Gina Haskell, she said she's no problem cooperating because Durham wants to talk to 2 CIA agents. We don't know the names, but there's 2 guys specifically he wants to talk to. So whoever those, maybe the 2 guys who work in the room where all those Brennan eyes-only documents are stored.
And also, where it would be fun to go into that room and say, we know this, we know this, we know this, and we put you right here in the middle. See this dot? That's you. And so here's what we know. And it's all going to come down on everybody's head. Do you want to be above this tide that's going to come? Or do you want to be in the middle of it, getting swept off to prison like everyone else? Because if you turn evidence...
Right. Well, they say Durham has already sat a grand jury.
There's going to be some deals.
They say Durham's already sat a grand jury. So now grand jury sits for 18 months. Now, they don't sit every day, but once you get picked for a grand jury, I think it's, I don't know, I always forget the number, 26, 27, 30, 36, I don't know, members of the grand jury. and again, they don't sit every day, but they sit for 18 months.
Is there an expiration?
18 months.
18 months, okay.
18 months. And so it has to be, so he's already sat one.
That's a long time.
Well, yeah, that's the point of it. It's long enough to be able to finish. Okay, so they can start doing, presenting evidence. The nice thing about a grand jury too, well, it sucks if you're a defense attorney. From a defendant's attorney's point of view, it sucks because unlike a preliminary hearing where they bring their evidence and you get to cross-examine the witnesses, no, the assistant U.S. attorney runs the grand jury. Even though the grand jury foreman really runs it, they really don't know that, and nobody really tells them that too much. And so the old saying is, a good assistant U.S. attorney could get a grand jury to indict a roast beef sandwich, because he leads them, just leads them, says here, and there's no cross, there's no counterpoint, and then if whoever he calls in to testify, that person cannot go in with an attorney. It's just him. Now he can plead the fifth, so the attorney's in the hallway. Now theoretically, the guy could go say, "Well, I need to talk to my attorney." But that's even kind of iffy on the rules. So basically, he's in there by himself. You got no attorney sitting next to him. He can't turn to his attorney. Nothing. So it's really
because
sucky.
The purpose of the grand jury is an investigation of whether or not charges are to be made, rather than an actual trial. The laws are different.
Well, yeah, but still, at least in a preliminary hearing,
the rules of introducing evidence.
Yeah, but at least in a preliminary hearing, I get to cross-examine the state's witnesses. So the judge gets to say, it's not like all ex parte, okay? So the judge just doesn't hear one point of view. I get to read a police report and say, well, that sounds fucked up. And I can ask the cop, and the cop goes, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. And then the judge says, yeah, that's fucked up. I'm not going to bind him over for trial. Whereas a grand jury, they issue an indictment, a true bill, and it goes up to the district court. And then you get the transcript, but that's it. You weren't in the room, so it does kind of suck from a defense point of view, but it's effective for moving the case forward and getting an indictment.
Is the defense an indictment's just an indictment? It just means it's now we're
but you're behind the 8 ball. See, the nice thing about a prelim is that you get to ask questions. Yeah. You get to ask questions of a cop or a witness, where you're not asking for the first time in front of a jury. It's like taking a deposition almost. So when you have a grand jury, when you go to trial, sometimes you're asking the guys questions for the first time.
When they introduce evidence in front of a grand jury, it doesn't have to be presented to any other attorneys, is what you're saying, ahead of time, like in a trial.
Nope.
Yeah, okay.
Just like your attorney walks in, calls his FBI agent.
Technically, it's not a trial. It's
right.
Yeah. So the rules for evidence would just be: this is just what we're going to present. If this were a trial, this is what we're going to present. and why we think it's grounds for indictment.
Now,
And
if you have a real
you jury to decide, that's what they're
right now, if you have a real pain in the ass grand jury, like some asshole like attorney like me's on it, and the assistant U.S. attorney, and they make me foreman, never happened. But if they did, and the guy presents his evidence, well, the grand jury foreman is actually in charge of it. But again, he doesn't really know that, and he can actually tell the U.S. attorney to shut the fuck up and say, hey, I run this. And he can subpoena witnesses. He can subpoena witnesses he think would be helpful for the defense. He can do whatever he wants. And the U.S. attorney, if he says something, he goes, he just turns to the bailiff. Excuse me, Mr. Bailiff, can I see the judge? Can we, and the judge is like, tells the U.S. attorney, hey, shut the fuck up. It's a grand jury. He's a foreman.
Well, that's interesting, Carl. So what you're saying is in all likelihood, an attorney, especially a defense attorney, would never be chosen as foreman for a grand jury.
Well, no, they would never let me sit on one.
They never let you sit on one because then the others would choose you as foreman.
Probably, yeah.
And
it's
they
like,
would be afraid
you choose that guy. Yeah, right.
Right. Oh, yeah. So, well,
that'd be the last one they want to see.
You know what? You'll never have to deal with. At least that's one thing to check off your list of stuff you'll never have to deal with.
Unfortunately.
You won't have to deal with hurricanes either. So there's that.
Right. That's true. No hurricanes
in
here.
the desert.
Just a lot of rain.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to take my call because I know you were kind of just wanting to get straight through your news tonight.
No, you added a really good piece of insight. I did not think of what you said about these bureaucrats don't do anything unless it's in writing first. Excellent. So that means hopefully we'll find something in writing.
On a positive human interest / feline interest note, my cat and I are buds again.
Yay!
He's not mad at me anymore for chucking him across the room.
Yeah, so you haven't chucked him across the room lately. No, just the other night.
I still feel bad about it.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, hey, nightmares happen, and he was on top of me. I didn't know what was happening. Poor guy.
Oh, well. All right, well, thank you, lady, for calling in.
With, extra food.
Gotcha. Always food works.
Okay.
All right, Effie Loves America. Thanks for calling in.
Good night.
All right, good night, young lady. See you in the chat. All right, bye-bye. And that was the great Effie Loves America. Always a great phone call. And it's a good piece of insight. I did not think of that myself. That, these bureaucrats don't do anything unless it's in writing. They get, permission to do it, which means that's good. Because that means there's something in writing laying around somewhere where somebody pretty high up, I'm thinking it went no higher than Joe Biden because, again, President Obama is too smart to sign something saying, go spy on President Trump. He would never sign a document like that. Now, he may get dummy Joe Biden to do it because he's, a dummy. And say here, because they made him the liaison guy. Hey Joe, I'm gonna give you something important to do. Yeah, what is it, Mr. President? What is it? You're gonna be the liaison guy in charge of communicating with the DOJ and the FBI in this super secret investigation. You're in charge. Ooh, thank you. And they're all laughing as he walks out the room. They all look at each other like he's got Powers in there and Rice and Valerie Jarrett, and they all just turn to each other and they go, "God, that guy really is an idiot." But anyway. So let's jump back to this story here real quick. All right. So I'll get back to it. All right. So let's see. We covered that. Collier ruled that the information was shared and disseminated unlawfully to John Brennan. Let me turn this up here. To John Brennan and James Clapper. Furthermore, information was disseminated within the Obama administration in violation of the Fourth Amendment. So anyway, from Obama and Brennan, the damage brought on America. How is it that Obama and Brennan could get away with being so diabolically sociopathic? Surely they knew that what they were doing was illegal, all under the authorization of James Comey. He knew it was illegal. It seems it was pure arrogance. Like Effie Loves America just said. She must have read this article. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, see, Effie, even the reporter says the same thing. It seems it was pure arrogance and hubris. They were sure they would not get caught. They were sure that Hillary Clinton's election was inevitable and it would cover up their crimes. I'm sure they all thought they would get a promotion for their efforts. Right? They can, because of course Clinton knew what was going on, and then she would find out who was behind her getting elected, helping her. And I'm sure they figured, oh, we'll all get promoted after she gets in. And when they did get caught, they fought back with treason by continuing to usurp the Constitution, undermining the incoming president with the Russia hoax. In other words, trying to corrupt her litany of crimes and staging an attempted coup against Donald Trump. In other words, okay, so here comes the insurance policy. It's like, okay, even if he gets elected, we can use this against him as an insurance policy, either to diminish his presidency, to paralyze him through investigation after investigation, or maybe even potentially a 25th Amendment issue or an impeachment issue. One way or the other, we'll get rid of him. We'll get him out of there. And again, the meeting in January of 2017, that's what it was all about. The president had already been elected. They knew it was a fair election. And they're plotting in January, just 2 weeks before this guy's about to take the oath of office, on how to get rid of him, which is really sad. Because you think, like, there's Obama on the stage when he's getting sworn in, standing there within a few feet of this guy. And he's sitting there in the back of his mind saying, okay, I put things in place. I'm not going to be in there to run it, but I put things in place to get this guy out of here. It's really disgusting. A reckoning is coming. Fortunately for America, Mike Rogers was a true patriot. He uncovered and stopped the abuse and reported it to the FISA court. Who is Admiral Mike Rogers? Unsung hero alerted President Trump to illegal spying. FISA court Judge Rosemary Collier presented honest findings to the Attorney General in DNI outlining the specific, intentional, systematic, unlawful, and unconstitutional nature of the abuse. She called it illegal and a clear violation of the Fourth Amendment. So Admiral Mike Rogers, hopefully I don't lose this story, but I'll punch it up and see where it goes. They're good. It went someplace else. Very good. So the World Tribune. Who's Admiral Mike Rogers? Unsung hero alerted President Trump to illegal spying. This is from May of 2019, May 1st. On March 4th, 2017, just 43 days after taking office, President Donald Trump tweeted, "Terrible, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism." The person who initially tipped off Trump on November 17th, 2016, that communications from the Trump Tower were being tapped was Admiral Mike Rogers, then head of the National Security Agency. Upon learning of the illegal spying operation, the Trump transition team promptly announced they were leaving Trump Tower and moving to Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey. Wow. See, I didn't even know all that. Soon after, the Washington Post reported that Director of National Intelligence James Clapper and Defense Secretary Ash Carter had recommended the removal of Rogers from his NSA post. So here's Mike Rogers, head of the National Security Agency, an admiral, and November 17th, the election was November 8th, he talks to Trump and says, oh, by the way, all of your communications from Trump Tower, they're being tapped. Because he's like, this is disgusting. And he's head of the National Security Agency. So then soon after, the Washington Post reported that James Clapper and Ash Carter both recommended removal of Rogers from his NSA post. That didn't happen. Roger announced retirement on January 5th, 2018, after heading the National Security Agency for nearly 4 years. Former U.S. Attorney and FISA Court Judge Joe Genova said that Rogers, an Obama administration official who actually had integrity, realized something was amiss. American citizens were being spied on by their own government, and Rogers acted. There's a hero. His name is Admiral Mike Rogers, Genova said on Fox News. Rogers' role went beyond informing Trump about the surveillance being conducted at the Trump Tower, analysts say. Geneva refers to the Obama administration's use of Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act to essentially weaponize the NSA's ability to collect data and surveil private U.S. citizens. Geneva said Rogers, discovered the illegal spying. He went personally to the FISA court and briefed the chief judge and worked with her for months to uncover the people who did it. The FISA court had already told the Justice Department, who lied to that court, and that has been given to Attorney General Bill Barr already. So in other words, the FISA court already told the Justice Department who actually lied to them. For more than 4 years before the election of Donald Trump, there was an illegal spying operation going on by FBI private contractors, 4 of them, to steal personal information, electronic information about Americans and use it against the Republican Party. The Epoch Times' Jeff Carlson detailed Rogers' actions in an article about the wiretapping incident entitled An American Hero and the Death of the FISA Narrative in January 2018. He also provides a precise account of the Obama administration's violations of the 702 program. Section 702 allows the Attorney General and the Director of National Intelligence to jointly authorize surveillance of people who are not quote-unquote U.S. persons. Use of 702 has helped the U.S. plan terrorist attacks. When the government is surveilling a foreigner with suspected ties to terrorists, the data of any American who communicates with him or her will be collected. If two Americans are communicating with one another and just mention the name of a foreigner who's under surveillance, their data will be collected. Think about that. Excuse me. Critics say the laws. Let's see. Critics of the law say it essentially gives law enforcement agencies a back door to search Americans' data without having to get a warrant. The information becomes part of a database, and the FBI or other federal law enforcement. If you just mention the two guys are on the phone, they just happen to mention a terrorist or terrorism or ISIS or we got to fight ISIS. Like you can see that somebody in the Trump transition team talking about what are we going to do about ISIS? Boom, bang, there it is. Here's the 702. They mention ISIS. They mention a terrorist name. Somebody, boom. Suddenly you can collect all their data without getting the FISA court warrant. You use this 702, which was done before the official start of the investigation in July of 2016. The DOJ Inspector General is expected to release his report to the public in the next 6 weeks. According to Geneva, there's another report that everyone has forgotten about involving James Comey alone. Excuse me. It is going to open up the investigation on a very high note, and there are going to be criminal referrals in it. Carlson suggested that the Trump dossier was not created to allow for spying on the Trump campaign. The dossier was created to obtain a FISA warrant to cover surveillance activity that had already taken place. Well, I think it was done for both. That may well have been the origin of the Trump dossier creation. It created rationale for previous illegal surveillance activity, but heroic action taken by Admiral Mike Rogers stopped the plan from being implemented. The FISA court had been warned. Our entire intelligence apparatus was weaponized to alter a presidential election. The chain of activity may rise all the way to the top. How does a nation prepare itself to deal with that level of criminality? This is crazy. I mean, this stuff, the more you read this story, the more you hear about it, the more it keeps going and going and going. Should have arrested Trader 44 for all his evil doings. Well, again, maybe down the road. I don't know. But my guess is he has cover. Or somebody will cover for him. I don't know. Maybe somebody will take the hit for him. I have no idea. But it sounds like it's leading right back to him. Let's see. Judge Scalia has ordered that the court be provided the names of every person targeted by the spying. Additionally, information on the content of every query entered into the NSA surveillance database. Once those names are made public, and they will be, a firestorm will erupt over the depth and corruption of the Obama White House, abuse of the intelligence agencies and political processes. Who was Obama spying on? Why, everyone, of course. Consider the situation. John Brennan, James Comey, and James Clapper give themselves or are given by President Obama the authority to obliterate the rule of law in the Fourth Amendment and surveil without limit any person they want. Political enemies, members of the press, Supreme Court justices, senators, presidential candidates, Donald Trump. Starting the minute Trump began criticizing Barack Obama. And there's a nice little picture there. Everybody pointing their finger at each other. Accessing their phone calls and emails, taking over their computers, duplicating their keystrokes, able to get a full readout. Excuse me a sec. Excuse me. All right. So, accessing their phone calls and emails, taking over their computers, duplicating their keystrokes, able to get a full readout of every website they ever visit. What porn do they watch? Are they a freak in private? What secrets do they have? Total police state, Stasi, East German-style tactics, Gestapo jackboots with unlimited authority and no oversight. This is in theory. This actually happened. So what do you think the White House did? Obama and his henchmen did exactly what it looked like they did. They used the NSA program to spy on Americans, illegally, systematically, and for malign purposes. These are facts expressed by the head of the FISA court and filed with the Attorney General and the Director of National Intelligence over 2 years ago on April 26, 2017. The masterminds behind the operation were John Brennan, James Comey, and James Clapper, although their names are redacted in the FISA ruling. Comey provided unlimited access to the databases for 3 contractors who appear to have worked for Brennan and Clapper under CIA or DNI authority. Whatever they were doing, they made at least 40,000 queries in 4 years, 10,000 per year. The whole scheme came to light when NSA Director Admiral Mike Rogers was informed that continued systematic unauthorized access to NSA databases through FISA 702 authority was occurring. He ordered access to the programs so the contract was cut immediately in April of 2017 and ordered an audit of the previous 6 months' activity. The audit reveals the NSA database were accessed 5,000 times in 6 months. Furthermore, 85% of those queries were illegal and unauthorized. 40,250 unlawful, non-compliant queries using names of American citizens, email addresses, phone numbers, or other identifying information. They further found that the use of these databases under these illegal circumstances had begun as far back as 2012. The audit found out that out of roughly 40,000 searches of the NSA database from DOJ computers using FISA 702 authority in 4 years, from 2012 through 2016, that 34,000 of them were illegal. Put another way, that is 34,000 criminal violations of individual civil rights, 34,000 attacks on the Fourth Amendment, the Constitution, the justice system, and the rule of law. So who were they surveilling? It became very important to know exactly. We know that Brennan and Clapper were not above doing anything. Brennan admitted that the CIA hacked into the Senate Intelligence Committee's computers. That's right. When Dianne Feinstein was checking some stuff out, nothing to do with this, when she was getting a little too hot and heavy with the CIA and Brennan had the CIA hack into the Senate Intelligence Committee computers to see what they were talking about. Think about that. The CIA hacking into the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's crazy. We know Brennan, Clapper, and Comey were instrumental in infecting the DOJ and FBI with the Steele dossier. Now we know, and we'll soon find out in explicit detail the whole of their participation in instigating and perpetuating the Russia hoax. We know they were the central actors in the failed coup attempt against Donald Trump. Now we're seeing the antecedents of their behavior, the reason they couldn't let Donald Trump become president. Panic on election night 2016. Now we know why they panicked on election night, because all of their sordid illegal abuses of the American political system were about to be exposed. They knew it for a fact because they knew Mike Rogers had briefed the FISA court about the full range of abuses of NSA databanks on October 26th, just after the Carter Page FISA warrant was issued. We know that Brennan gave Obama regular scheduled briefings in quote-unquote eyes-only envelopes. This is what we were talking about earlier. In other words, he didn't destroy those documents, obviously. They're stored somewhere. Kind of curious where and who's looking at them now. Moreover, that those briefings were only seen by Obama's inner circle of advisors. They were not part of the national intelligence briefings. Undoubtedly, Brennan was conveying to Obama the fruits of the poisonous surveillance request. As Peter Strzok famously confessed, POTUS wants to know everything. It is an unimaginable breach of the trust to the Constitution of the American people, sinister and Nixonian. So imagine that Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan were under surveillance throughout the 2012 campaign. Their emails and internet browsing habits are under scrutiny, privacy invaded, secrets uncovered. Was the Obama White House with no limits on their obviously sinister political enterprise surveilling Chief Justice John Roberts through the Obamacare Supreme Court debates? Were they keeping an eye on Justice Scalia when he was heading off to Texas? Who wanted they look at? We know the Obama cabal spied on James Rosen of Fox News. They got wiretaps on his parents' phones. We know the Obama White House went after a dozen AP reporters, Associated Press reporters. The White House flagrantly used the IRS to suppress the civil rights of millions of Americans by illegally targeting Tea Party groups. Then there is Fast and Furious. President Obama and the AG, Eric Holder's gun running to the Mexican drug cartels, and that they unsuccessfully tried to cover up after Americans, including border agent Brian Terry, was killed. It is a fact that John Brennan was the most politicized, ruthless, sinister CIA director since Allen Dulles. He continues to rail against Trump even as Brennan is going down in flames as the Durham investigation heats up. Exposed for fraud he has no boundaries. There appears to be no limits to what he was capable of doing then or by saying now. Was John Brennan illegally spying on Michael Hastings in the weeks before his car mysteriously exploded in Highland Avenue in Los Angeles at 3 a.m. in the morning? Hastings said he was working on the biggest story of his lifetime, bigger than the Stanley McChrystal story for Rolling Stone that made him famous. Hastings was certain he was being surveilled by the NSA. Michael Hastings contacted WikiLeaks lawyer Jennifer Robinson just a few hours before he died. Was Michael Hastings on Brennan's targets? And we'll get to that in another story here. Let's see. Let me get to another one here. Let's see. Let's get to John Roberts here. Now, remember, Chief Justice John Roberts, he sided with the liberals on the Obamacare vote. And anybody who read that opinion was like, well, how the hell did he do that? I mean, when you read what he wrote, it didn't make any sense. It's like he was making up stuff that there was no way someone as smart as John Roberts would have written this. I mean, it's like he had to find that the Obamacare was not unconstitutional. He had to find that the Medicaid, all that stuff, with the demanding the states was not an intrusion on states' rights and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't a tax; it was a fee. It wasn't a fee; it was a tax. That kind of stuff. And this story here, the inside story of how Roberts changed the Supreme Court vote on Obamacare. So, what kind of dirt do they have on John Roberts? Interesting question. The Obama Supreme Court ruling seems strange. Chief Justice John Roberts' reasoning was incoherent. The Conservative Digest dissent read like it was originally meant to be a majority opinion. Now we know why. According to Jan Crawford of CBS News, John Roberts switched sides in May, withstanding a one-month campaign from his conservative colleagues to change his mind. And then she writes, hold on. I am told by two sources with specific knowledge of the court's deliberations that Roberts initially sided with the conservatives in this case and was prepared to strike down the individual mandate, said Crawford on CBS Face the Nation. But Roberts, I'm told by my sources, changed his views, deciding to join with the liberals. There was a one-month campaign to bring Roberts back into the conservative fold, led, ironically, by Anthony Kennedy. And there's a picture of Roberts swearing in Obama, January 21st, 2009, when he had to swear him in a second time because they messed up the first time. That explains why what I was hearing a few weeks ago reported from third-hand sources that the conservatives were furiously lobbying each other on the issue of severability of the individual mandate from the rest of Obamacare. Turns out that this reporting was accurate, but that Roberts then changed his mind and joined the liberals. Subsequently, the conservatives started lobbying Roberts to stay with them on the laws on constitutionality. The irony is that Roberts didn't have to rewrite the statute in order to issue a judicially minimalist opinion. He could have done what the Obama administration asked him to do. If the individual mandate is unconstitutional under the Commerce Clause, also sever the law's guaranteed issue and community ratings provision and leave the rest of the law intact. Instead, he invented out of whole cloth a new definition of taxation that contravenes long-standing precedent. He added hundreds of billions of dollars to the federal deficit by way of his Medicaid ruling, and he forever tarnished his legacy as a justice and his promise to the nation that he would serve as an umpire. Remember, and he quote, and remember that it's my job to call balls and strikes and not to pitch or bat. That's what he said once before. So that was weird. Then, of course, we have the mysterious death of Antonin Scalia. The death of Antonin Scalia, chaos, confusion, and conflicting reports. Marfa, Texas. In the cloister chambers of the Supreme Court, Scalia days were highly regulated and predictable. Yet as details of Scalia's sudden death trickled in, this is written obviously several years ago, back in 16, yet as details of Scalia's sudden death trickled in Sunday, it appeared that the hours afterward were anything but orderly. The man known for his elegant legal opinions and profound intellect was found dead in his room by the hunting resort by the resort's owner, who grew word when Scalia didn't appear at breakfast. Then it took hours for authorities in remote West Texas to find a justice of the peace, officials said. When they did, Presidio County Judge Cinderella Guevara pronounced Scalia dead of natural causes without seeing the body, which is permissible under Texas law, without ordering an autopsy. As official Washington tried to process what his demise means for politics and law, some details of Scalia's final hours remained opaque. As late as Sunday afternoon, for example, there were conflicting reports about whether an autopsy should have been performed. A manager of the El Paso funeral home where Scalia's body was taken said his family made it clear they did not want one. One of two other officials who were called but couldn't get to Scalia's body in time said that she would have made a different decision on the autopsy. So that's interesting. And then let's find out about Michael Hastings. Quote, was Michael Hastings targeted by the CIA? WikiLeaks reveals agency's covert carjacking ability. And this is by the Mitt Press news desk. Minneapolis. This is a picture of the car Michael Hastings was driving after, if you can see it there, there's no skid marks, there's no brake marks there, and that's reported also. It's just he's supposedly driving down the street in L.A. and he's going 100 miles an hour at 4:30 in the morning, and he decided just to turn the car into a tree. I mean, no hint of any single car accident. So his car suddenly was accelerating 200 miles an hour. He lost the ability to steer the car. We find out that's a possibility that was a little more than just an accident. Minneapolis. A little more than 4 years ago, award-winning journalist Michael Hastings, a vocal critic of the Obama administration, died in a fiery high-speed automobile crash in West L.A. Hastings' death at the time generated suspicion among journalists due to the dubious circumstances surrounding his dramatic death. Many of the theories surrounding his death focused on stories that he was set to publish in the coming months. Hastings gained infamy for his 2010 profile on General Stanley McChrystal, the commander of NATO forces in Afghanistan, in an award-winning piece that ultimately led to McChrystal being relieved of his command. Immediately prior to his death, Hastings had published a strong critique of the Obama administration titled "Why Democrats Love to Spy on Americans." And I read that article. It's pretty nasty. It definitely paints the Obama administration in a pretty bad light. It talks about how the Democrats, they were bitching and moaning about what George Bush was doing, and suddenly now it's okay, and all the NSA FISA court abuses we just got done talking about, and that which exposed the party's hypocrisy regarding some of the civil liberty overreaches they had criticized under Bush but embraced under Obama. San Diego 6 News reported that Hastings had been investigating CIA Director John Brennan for an upcoming expose prior to the crash. And he crashed, I believe, in 2013. It was after the 2012 election. Hastings' behavior at the time also aroused suspicion. About 12 hours before his death, Hastings sent an email to his colleagues that the FBI had been interviewing his close friends and associates and told his co-workers it may be wise to immediately request legal counsel before any conversations or interviews about our news-gathering practices or related journalism issues. He added, "I'm onto a big story and need to go off the radar for a bit." Hastings' neighbor had also told the LA Times that he had been acting erratically, saying that he was scared and he wanted to leave town. Hastings also contacted WikiLeaks lawyer Jennifer Robinson just a few hours before he died, saying the FBI was investigating him. Several details regarding the crash itself also suggested the possibility that Hastings' death was a result of foul play, despite official statements to the contrary. For instance, the car caused no damage to the median curb dividing the four-lane road where the crash occurred, nor were there any skid marks present, despite the fact that the car made a sudden 60-degree turn into a palm tree. In addition, an eyewitness to the scene, a worker at a business located near the site of the crash, told San Diego News that the car was traveling extremely fast and that explosions could be heard coming from within the vehicle shortly before the crash. Furthermore, police pointed out that the fire inside the car was unusual due to its intensity, commenting that it resembled a thermite burn. Think about that. Hastings' body was so badly burned that it took the coroner 2 days to identify him. Thermite, another factor that is atypical for vehicle fires. The LAPD also refused to release accident or toxicology reports, nor they allow Hastings' car to be independently inspected, despite their assertion that there was no evidence of foul play. While the evidence suggesting Hastings was murdered was more than circumstantial, it proved difficult to officially connect the demise to the powerful enemies he had made in government, mainly because the government's ability to hack vehicles was only considered to be theoretically possible at the time. The most well-known proponent of this theory was former U.S. National Coordinator for Security, Infrastructure Protection, and Counterterrorism Richard Clarke, who told the Huffington Post that the crash that killed Hastings was consistent with a car cyber attack. He said, "It's relatively easy to hack your way into the control system of a car and to do such things as cause acceleration when the driver doesn't want acceleration, to throw on the brakes when the driver doesn't want the brakes on, to launch an airbag. You can also do some really highly destructive things now through hacking a car, and it's not that hard," Clarke said. However, Clarke also noted the problem with the car cyber attacks is that you can't prove it. There's a picture of Stephen Hastings. WikiLeaks had made the possibility of remotely hijacking vehicles for covert assassinations easier to prove thanks to his recent release of the largest ever publication of confidential documents related to the CIA. On Tuesday, WikiLeaks released a trove of documents codenamed Vol 7. That's back. Vol 7 was the Snowden thing. That's a document Snowden gave. I guess got turned over to WikiLeaks. I'm pretty sure that was Snowden was involved in that. I know he did with The Guardian, but I think he also got turned over to WikiLeaks. They contain details regarding the CIA's global covert hacking program. WikiLeaks noted that as October 2014, the CIA was also looking at infecting the vehicle control systems used by modern cars and trucks. The purpose of such control is not specified, but it would permit the CIA to engage in nearly undetectable assassinations. So, where does this all get us to? Well, it gets us back to boom, boom, boom. Italy sacking 2 intelligence chiefs over the Mifsud Brennan Russian hoax fiasco. It all comes back full circle. So you have these guys doing this operation the whole time. Hey, Black and Irish, how you doing? Yeah, Trump was great tonight. No, that was excellent. I totally enjoyed watching that. That was really fun. It was really cool. I think he hit all the right points. Again, the mainstream media said, "Oh, he's going to just talk about, Hillary Clinton and stuff." But if you watch the whole thing, what he mainly talked about was the economy and how we're doing around the world. He did bring up the phony investigation, and obviously his people are looking at the same thing I'm looking at, reading the same articles and doing the same investigation. And Durham's actually knows a lot more, and so does Bill Barr. And I'm sure Bill Barr is briefing the president on what's going on. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's going to wait to brief him at one big time. I don't know. But it is disgusting what they did here. Um, I mean, just the whole way they conceived this whole plan. I mean, starting with Mifsud and then Downer, all those foreign intelligence assets to try to take down at the time a candidate. Meeting with Steele in February of 2016, admonishing him through the FBI. I mean, they thought this guy had a shot to win. They are an intelligence organization. They said, hey, this guy just might win, and we can't let that happen. Then we want Clinton to win because she's going to let us do whatever we want. Clinton is the deep state. Okay, Clinton is involved with the Russians. The whole uranium deal rather, and her husband getting paid $500,000 for a 10-minute speech, and then hundreds of millions of dollars showing up the Clinton Foundation with 80% administration fees, which goes to Hillary, Bill, and their daughter. So yeah, see, hold on. FE. A vehicle system has about 100 million lines of code. It is nearly impossible to detect bugs, much less hacks. NASA investigated Honda for nearly a year and a half and couldn't prove anything. Huh. When their cars were going out of control and killing people. No kidding. Yeah, according to another article I read is that if the hardware is burned and destroyed, it's very hard to detect the software that actually that hacked into the car, to prove that somebody hacked into the car and like hit the acceleration or to disable the steering or something like that. So yeah, it's damn shit, pretty scary. So there you go. But yeah, so it's all just more food for thought. And hope and a private firm took over and found the problems, but it was years of work to get there. Yeah, so I mean, once you bug into it, it's hard to detect it, I guess. And then of course, especially if the car burns up in a fire, it's even harder to detect. So, but anyway, that's pretty much all I got for tonight. I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And yeah, the Trump rally. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it's on. It's on YouTube. It's all over the place. You can find it everywhere. I definitely worth watching. They're always fun to watch, especially if you've been to one. You kind of relate to it. But he had a lot of really good points tonight. And I tell you, it's true. I mean, you look at the Democrats, what they're trying to do. They can't get crowds like this, and they don't have a message like he does. He has a really good message. So remember, people, we all just have to get out to vote. That's a big thing. Watching his rally and everything, showing up and talking and everything is great. But we all got to get out to vote in November of 2020. He said the same thing at his rally tonight. So anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. I want to say thank you very much to everybody who's in the chat. Thank you, Effie Loves America, for calling in. And to all those who are watching and those who will be watching later, I want you guys to have a great night. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.